greatest spectacle in racing, but it's so much more than just a car race. It's a mixture of gigantic crowds, lightning speed, certain peril, teamwork, individual courage, and incredible reward. For many, it is the ultimate dream. Each May, the legions of racers and their fans flock to the heartlands of Indiana. They come in search of speed and glory. Success here is the ultimate high for a racer. Failure can be devastating. A life can be changed in the flicker of an eye. All the years of tradition were manifest last year in this single moment. Two men, each with a lifelong dream, racing at the limit, racing for themselves, racing for their teams, racing for a place in history. Some are young, brash, aggressive. They come from a background in midgets and sprint cars with a long family racing legacy. Others come from across the sea, mature, studied, driven with many championships to their credit. Different men from vastly different backgrounds, focused on the same goal. A white line painted on a yard of brick, 500 miles ahead. The planning, the training, the preparation of generations crystallized in a single moment. Two men mastering the raging power of a high-tech wonder, screaming toward a single point too narrow for both. Two men refusing to give an inch. Two men willing to pay the ultimate price. But there can be only one winner, only one champion. The rewards are measured in more than dollars. It is a moment at the pinnacle in motorsports. The Indianapolis champion joins a line that stretches back into history. The dream of an Indianapolis victory is shared by thousands, but it can be possessed only by a single man. The 500-mile odyssey is about to begin again. And at the end of the road, a likeness in silver on an aging trophy. And another name will be added to the list of champions of the Indianapolis 500. For the first time in stereophonic sound, ABC Sports presents the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Now, since 5 o'clock this morning, when a volley of aerial bombs signaled the opening of the speedway gates, an immense crowd has been flowing down the walkways, up and into their seats. The countdown clock is counting back to the start of the engines now, just 47 minutes away. The focus of the attention of the racing world will then go to the 33 drivers and their million-dollar machines. Hello, and welcome to Race Day in Indianapolis. I'm Paul Page, and in this event that A.J. Foyt refers to as the Indy is most unique in the annals of motorsports. To race here requires a man to thread his way down a 50-foot wide piece of track. It's rimmed with concrete walls. It's designed for 90 miles an hour, but it necessitates him doing 220 miles an hour. Now that requires a very special breed of man. He must execute 800 perfect left-hand turns, and all the while battle with 32 other equally skilled drivers. Now that special breed is backed by a team, an intricate team of men using the latest in scientific technology. To win here requires skill, talent, perseverance, persistence, and incredible personal courage. Junior, winner of the 83 Michigan 500, and Billy Vukovich, grandson of the two-time winner. In the 10th row, Roberto Guerrero, Jim Crawford, and Al Unser. Unser, now a four-time winner, was a rookie in 1965, 25 years ago. Crawford went airborne in this crash earlier in the month, and for that feat, the Navy presented him with the Wings of Gold. Last January, Colombian-born Roberto Guerrero became a U.S. citizen. In the ninth row, 3 veterans. 83 winner Tom Sneva, former track record holder Scott Brayton, and Stan Fox. The 8th row consists of the 85 pole sitter Pancho Carter, the 83 pole sitter Teo Fabi of Italy, and Dean Hall, who is a world-class skier and one of the impressive young rookies in Indycar racing, the only man in the field to wear an earring. Teo Fabi drives a Porsche on the track and on the street. Pancho Carter, another second-generation driver. In 1987, he did an inverted pirouette here in practice. In the 7th row, IMSA champ Jeff Brabham, former ARS champion Didier Tays, and Canadian rookie Scott Goodyear. In the 6th row is Tero Pomroff of Finland, Raul Boisel of Brazil, and 18-year 500 veteran Gary Bettenhausen. On the 5th row inside is Tony Bettenhausen, then Eddie Cheever, and Kevin Kogan. In 1982, Kogan started a chain reaction accident as the green flag came out. For relaxation, he is a private pilot. For the past 7 years, Eddie Cheever has been the only American in Formula One. This year, he is honored as the field's fastest rookie. Tony Bettenhausen's father was killed here in 1961. Tony and his brother Gary still chase the family dream of an Indy win. In row 4, it's John Andretti, Dominic Dobson, and Randy Lewis. John Andretti's background includes midgets and sprint cars. He now lives a few miles from the track with his wife, Nancy. Inside row 3, it's Al Unser Jr., 4-time winner A.J. Foyt, and the 85 winner Danny Sullivan. Danny did some incredible driving to score a victory here. This year on his 40th birthday, his son Driscoll was born. A.J. Foyt scored here in 1961, 64, 67, and 1977. He is the only driver to win in front and rear engine cars. Little Al joins his famous family's legacy. His eyes reflect the intensity of his desire to win. In the 2nd row, 86 winner Bobby Rahal, Michael Andretti, and his father Mario, the 69 winner. The pig is unidentified. The little boy is Mario Andretti. He pulled off his rookie stripes here in 1965. Michael and his father are more friendly competitors away from the track. Without mustache, Bobby Rahal began racing in sports cars. Now, when not at the track, he runs several automobile dealerships. On the pole inside the 1st row, defending champion Emerson Fittipaldi, then 3-time winner Rick Mears and Arie Luyendyk. Arie is a fitness buff with a tough daily regimen. He has never won an IndyCar race. Rick Mears started racing on motorcycles. In February, he got the ride of his life in an F-18 Hornet on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. In Brazil, Fittipaldi grows citrus. Last May, he became the Speedway's first $1 million winner. 33 of the finest ready to start a 500-mile ride to glory. The view from high above the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the pit area, and the main straightaway. And of course, over in the center of the track is the garage area, Gasoline Alley, and Jack Arute is there.
And Paul, 365 days ago, Al Unser Jr. came so very close to winning the Indianapolis 500. Since then, Al, how often have you thought about it?
What?
The Indy 500 and the way you lost it last year.
Well, it was not very much, you know. We thought about it right away there at the beginning, but as time goes on, you know, time heals all wounds, and now we're ready to go racing. It's a brand new day. The Valvoline car's running great, and we're ready to go.
Another driver that is ready to go racing after a long layoff is with Gary Gerould. Gary?
Very compelling story here. John Paul Jr. last drove at Indianapolis in 1985, and in the 5 years since, he spent 28 months in a minimum security federal penitentiary. It was a marijuana trafficking charge incurred as a teenager. John, now you've managed to fight your way back into a row at Indianapolis at the back of the pack. Do you feel that you've got something to prove to the racing community and maybe yourself today?
Well, this is the biggest race in the world, and I'm being given a second chance. I'd like to prove I'm worthy of the opportunity. Dave Mann's given me an opportunity here at ATEC and Buick, and I'd like to be able to give him a good finish today.
We wish you well. He'll start 32nd, Paul, in the Mann Motorsports Buick Lola.
Well, we're about 32 minutes away from the start of the engines here, as up in the suites and throughout the track, everyone prepares for the start of the 500.
keep it up, and I can keep it up myself this month or this day. This is the day it's going to have to happen, and we have a good chance.
He starts outside front row. A lot of folks say it's the best place to start at Indianapolis. Paul?
Is chairman of the board emeritus of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mrs. Mary Frederick Hallman.
Go. Gentlemen, start your engine.
33 cars, led by this man, the pole sitter, Emerson Fittipaldi, as he sits waiting for the signal to roll ahead and to start their journey. His combatant of last year, Al Unser Jr. 11 rows of 3. As the roar began to build, the crowd began to cheer. A tremendous moment here at Indianapolis each and every year. All of the crews indicating that they are ready to go. No signs of trouble anywhere down the field. What a beautiful sight. Rick Mears, 3-time winner. He's never started in the center of the road. And there's A.J. Foyt, of course. Look at those eyes and the miles and miles that they have seen pass beneath him here at Indianapolis. The weather today, well, it couldn't be better for racing. The forecast is for sunny skies. The temperature right now, 68 degrees. It shouldn't climb much higher than that, and that'll be great for the engines. Let's go down trackside. Gary Gerald.
All this field rolls by. Crews come scrambling over the walls. It's a magic moment. Here's the Gallus crew. They're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, bringing equipment over here. They're a throwback to the old Wild West. It's fun to watch this team. They're aggressive. They're confident. Rick Gallus, somewhat of a swashbuckler himself. One of the real fun teams to watch through the day in the pits at Indianapolis, Paul.
All right, they try to get the equipment over the wall. The 57 car belongs to Gary Bettenhausen. What a tremendous story this family has been. He and the 51 car, the family have been in the race. Tony is also in the 500-mile race. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, what a year. What a difference a year makes for Gary Bettenhausen. Of course, last year, after qualifying an impressive 14th, he failed to complete a single lap here at Indianapolis, victim of a broken valve at the start. But this year, it's totally different. Gary Bettenhausen, who went in the garage here a year ago, literally in tears, is now celebrating. The car is rolling away, and new crew chief Darrell Soppe feels that with the new Buick power plant, they may have their best shot ever at going to victory lane here at Indianapolis. Paul?
Jerry, a large group of fans would go wild should they come up with a victory. 33 cars fighting it out for over $6 million in purse, $1 million to the winner. And the race record is held by Bobby Rahal at 170.7 miles an hour. You're on board, looking over the right-hand shoulder of Bobby Rahal, those special aerodynamic devices on the top of his helmet to help him get around this race course. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, another special device that each driver will carry in his car is this telemetry, which will help in the valvoline timing and scoring system new to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Computers also involved this morning when they ran a scenario based upon the last 5 races here. Here's what the computer says will happen. The average number of cautions, 7. 11 cars will not finish. The maximum number of pit stops will be 8. The race speed should start at 220 miles an hour and drop down to 216 after the first 10 laps. Unfortunately, the computer will not tell us who will win the race.
We'll keep an eye on those results. We'll keep an eye on this man as well. We take a look at the motors in this race. Chevrolet and Buick sharing with 11 each. And Cosworth, Judd, Porsche, and Alfa Romeo. Rounding out the 33-car field, Michael Andretti works his way around this track. His father alongside, and there is his onboard camera. That's his father, Mario, just up and to the right. Slowly now preparing for the 500. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
The Newman-Haas team takes care of Mario and Michael Andretti, Paul. And as they get set, the unspoken question, will this be the year that finally good fortune smiles on the team that's had so much frustration over the years at this racetrack? Aside from the colorful Alexander Julian design uniforms they wear, not a lot of flamboyance with this team. They're efficient, they're focused, they're determined to get an Andretti to victory lane. And victory lane, Paul, just one pit up the road to our right. Paul?
Looking backward from the rear of the pace car, the chassis in this 500 field, there are more Lolas than anything else, but many of the insiders say you should really watch the Penske chassis. Former winners, led by Al Unser and A.J. Foyt, Rick Mears with 3, Fittipaldi, Ray Hall, Sullivan, Sneva, Mario Andretti. Awesome power in this race. And there is Rick Mears, the 3-time winner. His starting position, the center of the front row. Let's go down the Penske pit, Jack Arute.
And Roger Penske, as he has for so many years, will lead the effort of Team Penske from Rick Mears' pit position number 1. Very calm, very deliberate. The entire team, since they arrived here at 5 a.m. this morning, going about business normally, just the way they have for so many years. It's just another day at the office, Paul Page, for them. They've won more 500-milers than any other team.
A real tactical operations center, the Penske pit on race day. Rookies in the race, Eddie Cheever is the fastest, Canadian Scott Goodyear. Dean Hall, perhaps the most colorful, as the field works its way down the long 5/8 of a mile backstretch. Let's go to Jerry Punch near Dean Hall's pit.
Well, Paul, if there were a glass slipper award for the Cinderella story of the month, it would have to go to rookie Dean Hall. The former speed skier from Squaw Valley, California, had never turned a lap here until 4 weeks ago. In fact, car owner Dale Coyne had 1/10 the budget that most teams had here in Indianapolis, yet they flanked their car firmly in the 8th row. Now, if it looks like there's an overwhelming air of confidence here in the rookies' pit, there's a reason for that. The crew realizes, as did Cinderella, this race will be long over before the clock strikes midnight. Paul?
So Dean Hall is ready as he works his way around this giant 2.5-mile oval. So now let's take a look at the starting field once again for the 74th running of the great Indianapolis 500. They come off the 4th turn, the first row, Fittipaldi, Mears, Ari Lyondike is number 1. In the 2nd row, Bobby Rahal, Michael and Mario Andretti. The 3rd row, Al Unser Jr., A.J. Foyt, Danny Sullivan. In the 4th row, it's John Andretti, Dominic Dobson, Randy Lewis. The 5th row, Tony Bettenhouse, the fastest rookie, Eddie Cheever, and Kevin Kogan. Back in the 6th row, Carol Palmroth of Finland, Raul Boisel of Brazil, and Gary Bettenhouse. Row 7, Jeff Brabham of Australia, Didier Tays of Belgium, and Scott Goodyear. The 8th row, Pancho Carter, Teo Fabi, rookie Dean Hall. The 9th row, Tom Sneva, Scott Brayton, and Stan Fox. In the final 2 rows, the 10th row, Roberto Guerrero, Jim Crawford, and Al Unser, the 4-time winner. And in the 11th and final row, Billy Vukovich, the grandson of the 2-time winner, John Paul Jr., and the 33rd qualifier, Rocky Moran. This is Mario Andretti's onboard camera as you look over his right shoulder from the outside of the row as he rolls just a very few feet from that concrete retaining wall that lines this 2.5-mile track. The Chevrolet pace car, Jim Perkins of Chevrolet, the driver, Bob Cassidy, Rich Coy on board the pace car as well. United States Auto Club officials, the sanctioning body of this great race. Now the field begins to pick some alignment. The pace car accelerates just a bit away. The front 2 rows are aligned. The 3rd row now begins to come into alignment. The rest of the field straggled out just a bit. Rick Mears in that front row. Al Unser Jr. sitting back 3 rows behind. The field coming to full alignment now. Off to the 4th turn. We watch for Dwayne Sweeney, the starter, with a green flag. The green flag is out, and the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500 is underway. Fittipaldi leads Mears into the first turn.
The cars of Roger Penske did not lead a single lap in last year's race. There were 3 of them in that race. There are 2 of them now running first and second.
Aerial bombs being fired off overhead to mark the positions of the cars in each of the 4 corners. And Emerson Fittipaldi becomes the first driver to lead that opening lap 2 years in a row since Bobby Unser did it back in 1972 and 73.
Well, we knew Emmo was going to be tough. We all kind of predicted he was going to take off and go really fast. We also thought Rick would be right behind him, and that's where he is right now. Emmo is going to cause this race to be very fast.
In third place is Ari Leyendijk. Bobby Rahal has moved up and dropped into fourth. On the backside now, it is still Fittipaldi. Reminiscent of last year when he jumped into the lead from the outside, moving past pole sitter Rick Mears, and then began to drive away.
We've talked about how important the subtle adjustment of these cars are. Emerson Fittipaldi spent a lot of time here Thursday, the last time they practiced, picking out the tires. There's his wife, Teresa, that he wanted to start the race with, the qualifying tires that he ran 2 weeks ago here. You see, that combination is working out perfectly for him.
Second place, the yellow Pennzoil car of Rick Mears.
He's running a lot lower on the track than normal, Paul. Usually Rick stays up on the white line, stays kind of what's known as the normal groove, or the normal groove. Now, I guess, down to the grass, that's where they're running.
It's been an excellent spot. Good start of the race. We take a look now from onboard Al Unser Jr.'s car. That's Bobby Rahal running just ahead in a fight for fourth place. Rahal got a great start, moved down into fourth. Right now it is Fittipaldi that leads. Then you see Rick Mears, then Ari Leyendijk running in third place. In fourth place, that's Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. set up just behind. Then Mario Andretti, then Danny Sullivan.
Rahal and Al Unser Jr. are teammates on the Gallus team. Rivals on the racetrack today.
We've never seen him run quite so low on the track this early in the race. Paul, they're getting right now. Watch little Al right down to the grass, back out, and that's exactly what Rahal, and for the most part, all of them are doing right now.
Well, you couldn't ask for a smoother and safer start. That's always a great deal of apprehension. Looking backwards from Bobby Rahal's car, that's this car, Al Unser Jr. moving up, closing.
Remember, there's been a lot of rain. The track has not been run on for a while. We had a lot of rain, so a lot of the dirt, the fine, silty stuff, gets down on the track, and that's probably making it just a little bit slippery at the moment.
When the Gallus team was expanded to a two-car team to include Rahal, little Al was very candid. He said, I really don't want a teammate, but it's worked out very well between the two of them. But they are racing. Remember, you've got to understand that about teams. Once the green flag drops, they race each other.
They're averaging 213.1 miles an hour. Fittipaldi turned the last lap, lap number 4, at 214.8. He's flying. This battle continues. And it continues to fourth place. Bobby Rahal. Closing on him is Al Unser Jr.
Incredibly clean start. No incidents so far, knock on wood, but I think it's a testament to the professionalism, the level of professionalism in IndyCar racing today.
Now, there are long conversations held by the front row and, in fact, the entire field on exactly how this race will start. And for the most part, they agree, perhaps with the exception of the front row, try to maintain position and just get yourself to the back straight, and then you can begin to sort out. Remember, after all, it's not the first lap, it's the 200th lap that counts at Indianapolis. Al Unser Jr. continues his pursuit for the fourth place Bobby Rahal. There's Ari Leyendijk running in third place. To the main stretch once again. Second place, Rick Mears. And closing on Mears now is Ari Leyendijk in the 30 car.
Here's a guy, Paul, that for most of the month was overlooked a little bit. But I think he's going to be fast today.
Roger Penske, 3 cars in this race. Mears, Sullivan, Fittipaldi. That pretty well has some of the best talent in the sport blanket. Emerson Fittipaldi led the first 34 laps last year. He's out in front again today. ABC Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 will return after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're back, the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500. This is now a fight for second place. Bobby Rahal moved up into second when Rick Mears began to fall backwards. Ari Leyendijk fought with Rahal for just a moment, but then Rahal picked up the second position, and now Leyendijk is right there.
Now, Paul, it's not abnormal for Rick Mears to fall back a little bit at the start of the race. Almost every year we see that he usually develops some problems, meaning his chassis is not set just right. Now, Penske Group will get it all fixed up during the pit stops. He'll be competitive again.
Now, you mustn't forget the last time that Rick Mears won the 500, he fell a full lap behind and then came back to win. Looking back from Bobby Rahal's car, that's Leyendijk in pursuit.
Leyendijk, who you see there behind Rahal, has been described by his car owner, Doug Shearson, as a lot like Danny Sullivan in the sense that he's casual and offhand around the pits. In his personal life, he gets in the car, it's like you switch him on. Suddenly, Leyendijk is a very tough-minded, tough racer.
That's Mario Andretti lined up behind Leyendijk. You get a glimpse of him from time to time as we continue to watch this battle for second place. The leader is Emerson Fittipaldi. Running behind Mario is Al Unser Jr.
We've watched Leyendijk go fast here before. He's going to be steadily moving up.
The Bettenhausen brothers, by the way, are running 20th and 21st together. Let's go to the pits. Here is Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, we checked with the guys at the Team Penske, with Roger Penske specifically, and he said the car is very well balanced, but they are going to try and dictate a pace early on.
All right, well, some of the tactics being played in the Indianapolis 500. Leyendijk, as they use traffic. That's Tony Bettenhausen that they're coming around. And Leyendijk uses that traffic to come right on the rear of Bobby Rahal's car. So they are in a fight now.
Leyendijk's best finish here is 7th, but the team for which he is running, Shearson, finished 3rd with Raoul Boesel last year. So Leyendijk is really on the spot to bring that team up into the first 3 again this year.
Now, weather-wise, the track should be very fast today. They're turning laps 213 to 215, but there's no wind, and it's very cool. It should be an ideal day, other than possibly the track's just a little dirty.
And the man who owns the race record, Bobby, of course, is Bobby Rahal, who we've been watching here at 2 hours and 55 minutes, set back in 1986 when he won.
He's certainly with a good team this year, Sam.
Well, Bobby Rahal started 4th, now running 2nd. The last time he started 4th, he won this race. He's an analytical mind. He says that racing is not very well understood.
The biggest failure, I think, of racing, and it's not its own fault, it's just the nature of it, is that it's such a sensory sport. You have to experience to know what it is, that it's very difficult to explain to somebody what's it like to go 200 miles an hour, what are the physical demands, this, that kind of thing.
Mario Andretti moved up to challenge Arie Leyendijk, but couldn't get past. But Mario is right there now and taking a hard look at the 3rd place Leyendijk, as Rahal has been able to move away just a bit. On the backstretch, there's Mario. His last win here came in 1969.
Mario has had a very quiet month here. They knew right away in qualifying that they were not going to be contenders for the pole. They have not been in the limelight. And I think in many ways that's helped Mario to focus on what he's doing right now, which is running the race.
The fight on the speedway is for 3rd place as Mario Andretti tries to chase down Arie Leyendijk. Leyendijk, a man who has never won in a championship car, an Indycar. Looking for his first.
He's been at it for 7 years.
This is the point in the race, Paul, that the drivers are going to do a lot of feeling around to see how they can act. How do these cars really react in a lot of wind turbulence? They've never known this. Everything so far in practice has been like run with 1 or 2 cars at a time is all.
Maybe Mario got his bad luck out of the way this month. He was sideswiped a few days ago as he was driving his personal car out of the museum. That's the sort of thing that happens to him in the race. Let's hope he's been able to put it behind him.
The records roll off here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They're averaging 211 miles an hour. Fittipaldi started the race ranked 25th in lap leader standings. He's now in 23rd position. He's moved past Lee Wallers and Jimmy Snyder. And Fittipaldi very carefully works his way through traffic. It is a long race that lies ahead. 17 laps are complete, and already the teams are beginning to think about the first pit stop. It should not be that far away. Teresa Fittipaldi, Emerson Fittipaldi's wife. Fittipaldi continues to dominate here. The fight is for second, third, and fourth. Willis live. The caution light is on, and it's Danny Sullivan that slammed into the wall. He was running in 8th place as he caught the wall. There's Roger Penske. He's in touch with Rick Mears by two-way radio. This comes at a moment in which it may be a good opportunity. Look at the debris littering that racetrack coming off of the corner. This might create a great opportunity for the pit stop. Several of the cars already beginning to roll for pit road. Danny Sullivan is out of the car, gives the crowd a wave.
Remember, all that debris out there, Paul, is carbon fiber.
There is Rick Mears making his stop.
A vital stop for Mears because he obviously had handling problems. He dropped back as far as 6th. Watch what they're doing to his car now.
So Richard Buck and that crew make a change. Danny Sullivan climbs into the ambulance. It's mandatory that when they spin and touch the wall here, they go to the track hospital, the Hanna Emergency Medical Center. Dr. Henry Bach, the medical director there. Now let's just take a look. Look at the top of the screen as we watch for Sullivan. Lost it just beyond the apex of the turn. Turn 1, went up, caught the wall, but really a surprising moment. We were concerned about the possibility of accidents, but the concern really wasn't with Danny Sullivan or the new Penske cars.
That is where Sullivan spun and crashed 2 years ago when his car failed him there. Luckily, this time he also escapes uninjured.
That's Tom Sneva, the 83 winner. He is in the pits, and they had a little trouble getting that car up on the jacks. They can take their time on these stops, though, because the caution light is on. The yellow flag flies at the start-finish line. Roger Penske.
Now, you can look at Roger right there. Now, what he's wondering is how bad are the race cars? They've missed the settings. The racetrack has got slippery. He's sitting there trying to contemplate what to do.
The ambulance carrying Danny Sullivan works down the backside of the race course on its way to the medical center. So this gives us an opportunity to take a look at this incredible Indianapolis Speedway. The Speedway was paved with brick for the first 500 in 1911. Today it's covered in asphalt. While they called it an oval, it's truly a rectangle.
2.5 miles around. Beautiful racetrack. Now, the pits are right on the front straightaway. This is where most of the action happens during the race. The turns are all dimensionally the same, but they won't look the same to the drivers. The short chutes, for example, they're the same too, but they won't look the same. 1/8 of a mile long. The front straightaway and the back straightaway, again, 5/8 of a mile long. Totally different, though.
Bobby, take us for a ride around the Speedway on board with Al Unser Jr.
Okay, Paul, down the front straightaway, approximately 235 miles an hour. We're going to scrub off about 15 to 18 miles an hour in the turn. Out into the short chute, real close to the wall. Down, just make a big turn out of the whole thing, out close to the wall right there. Down the back straightaway, 12,600 RPM. Beautiful open view. Driver can see a long ways ahead. Into turn 3, but remember, the track may be 60 feet wide there. The through is only 1 or 1/2 car width wide. Now to the left is the pit entrance. And as we look down the front straightaway, grandstands are on both sides. It looks like a dead-end alley. Now, despite the fact that all the turns are the same, as you can see, they look different, all because of the grandstands around the track.
There's Danny Sullivan's battered car. It's his 4th crash here in 8 Indianapolis 500 starts, 82, 84. Remember, he hit the same area in 1988, now this year. But Danny is reported okay. We'll be back. Back live, floating over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The yellow flag is out. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, what's happening down here for the first time in Indianapolis history, there are television monitors on each of the pit positions. Nigel Bennett here and Chuck Sprague, who call the shots for Danny Sullivan and Team Penske, have been watching the replays, trying to determine exactly what might have happened to the car. They've watched 4 replays thus far, and they're somewhat indeterminate as to what the cause was. They saw the back end of the car lift up, and they're huddled in a conversation right now.
All right, so Team Penske wants to make absolutely sure that whatever happened to that car isn't going to happen to the other 2 entries in the race, Emerson Fittipaldi and Rick Mears. The field under caution now. Fittipaldi in traffic. Bobby Rahal set up right behind him. And And then Mario Andretti. Ari Leyendijk will come back in 4th place. Over at the Emergency Medical Center, Danny Sullivan has arrived. It should only be a quick examination. Bobby Unser.
Well, the wreck wasn't as bad. There it is right there. And it looks, from what we can see, like the rear end just plain came loose on the car. It's when he's under maximum power. That's an easy time to get it loose. Wasn't as bad as an accident as it could have been, Paul.
Danny recently became a father. He has a son named Driscoll.
Danny Sullivan, former winner of the Indianapolis 500, spun and won in '85, but the spin today was a little more devastating. Under the caution flag, there is Fittipaldi out in front. And Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, is the defending champion here at the Indianapolis 500. Last year winning with those final 2 laps being run out against Al Unser Jr. Will that race today, this race today, lead to the same kind of conclusion?
Now remember, the Fittipaldi's car, Rick Mears' car, and Danny's should be all the same. Maybe just a slight setting difference.
So Fittipaldi will have to work his way through traffic when we come back to green. We asked him earlier about his emotions after the victory over Little Al.
When I come out of turn 3, and I haven't seen Al Jr. because on the side of my eyes I couldn't see what happened to him. But I saw the yellow. And then I think he spun off. Then I look in the mirror going to turn 4, and he wasn't there. And I couldn't see anymore where Al Jr. was. And then I realized he crashed. And that time I was happy that I was leading the race, but I was very anxious to know what happened to Al Jr. because he could be badly hurt on a crash like that. And I think that would spoil the whole result of the race and my victory and everything. And I think I was very under a lot of pressure until the next lap when I come over turn 3, and Al Jr. was with thumbs up next to the track, and there was like a big release, and then the winning emotion come to me only that time when I saw him waving to me.
And Emerson's car owner, of course, Roger Penske. Roger went to military school, knows the value of having a numerical advantage in battle. He had 3 cars, he's now down to 2.
Now the pace car begins to accelerate now. 25 laps are complete. The yellow came at an opportune time for the tactics to play for most of the crews. Everybody came into the pits and stopped. Wisconsin's Stan Fox is back on the track now. He had a little longer stop. He was 13 laps in the pits. As we come back to green, it will be Fittipaldi at the head of the field. We take a look down through the top 10. A.J. Foyt running there in 8th place. Coming back to speed. The green flag comes out, and we're back racing. Completing the 26th lap, as Bobby Rahal comes to the inside and challenges Fittipaldi.
Boy, that had to be a hard run by Fittipaldi. He had to have a lot of confidence in Bobby Rahal, because Bobby was totally up alongside of him.
Wow, I thought he had him there for a minute. The battle continues, and Mario Andretti, Ari Leyendijk close in as well. At the front, though, Rahal has Fittipaldi lined up, and he jumped him good on the restart.
We all knew that early on in the race, or any time during the race, Fittipaldi was going to be tough. Now, when you see a pass that really Rahal had on Fittipaldi, and yet Emerson just kept going on it, hey, that means he's really dedicated today.
Exactly, Bobby. We talked at the beginning about what are the ingredients that go into a 500 victory. We just saw some bravery by Emerson Fittipaldi. That was tough to stay outside of Bobby Rahal there. He pulled it off.
Well, Fittipaldi didn't want any questions at all. He wanted to make sure everybody understood he plans on leading this race. That's John Andretti now that is sandwiched between 1st and 2nd place. The number 41 blue Porsche. Their effort this season has been slow in starting, but a great deal is expected. Rahal comes past Young John, tries to get past him, can't get the job done. Trying to continue his pursuit of Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader. Let's go to Jack Arute again.
Well, it was
Emerson Fittipaldi is one of the few front runners with no problems. They made no chassis adjustments during that run. Now, in contrast, his teammate, that of course Rick Mears, made a major adjustment to the front wing. They say the car continues to get loose, and they're chasing the setup at the present time.
Well, Rick Mears is running back in 7th place, but Rick is also comfortable at setting his own pace.
Now remember, Paul, again, all the 3 of the Penske cars are identically built. They should handle exactly the same, but every driver has his own choice about what springs, what sway bars, what wing setting, things like this. Obviously, Emmo's done his homework right. It doesn't look like the other 2 did theirs exactly right, at least for this part of the race.
4th place, Al Unser Jr. works his way around the track, being chased now by 5th place Arie Luyendyk in the number 30 car, that red and white machine. This car so close to a victory last year. And then in those final laps in the battle with Emerson Fittipaldi, and what a race that was. You can see now little Al now starts to close down on Mario Andretti in a fight that will develop here for 3rd place. There's Andretti. He currently runs in 3rd.
Little Al, who just loves gadgets. You see him there, remote control, locks, motorized, pool covers, anything like that. He's a great mechanic himself, although in the Gallus team, they won't let him work on his own car.
10 cars run on the lead lap.
Now keep in mind one thing. We have a race between a lot of ways. It's Lola against the Penskes and really 4 March cars. But right now we're going to be watching Lolas against the Penskes. There's Al Jr. That's a Lola. Bobby Rahal. That's a Lola. Emerson Fittipaldi, Penske.
And remember, the last time Lola won here was with Al Unser back in 1978. Back to green flag racing. 30 laps are now into the record book as we approach the 100-mile mark at lap number 40. Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader of the race, chased by Bobby Rahal. Then Mario Andretti. Then this man, Al Unser Jr. Behind little Al is Arie Luyendyk. Then Michael Andretti. Then Rick Mears. Then A.J. Foyt. Raul Boesel is running in 9th place right now. Let's take a ride around this magnificent circuit with Al Unser Jr., currently 4th. The Indianapolis 500, 36 laps are complete. I'm Paul Page. This view comes from underneath Mario Andretti's rear wing. You're looking at Al Unser Jr. as he threads his way past another car. And right behind him and closing down is Michael Andretti. So the Unsers and the Andrettis are beginning to do battle here on the circuit. There's little Al. And look at Michael close up.
And remember, it was these 2 men who came together in that celebrated crash in Long Beach a year ago. It's not a battle only between 2 families, but 2 generations. Al Unser Jr., 28 years old. Mario Andretti, 50 years old.
Little Al following in just a bit as he moves to the inside to continue chasing Mario Andretti through the first turn. Out of contact for just a moment. Michael Andretti behind, then Arie Luyendyk, then Rick Mears, then A.J. Foyt, Raul Boesel, and Kevin Kogan.
Traffic is the big thing right now, Paul. It brings them together and separates them a little bit, all by where they catch the cars.
Let's go to Gary Gerald for this update.
Well, just an update on that last pit stop for the Andrettis. Mario was perfectly happy with his setup. No changes, just the usual fuel and rubber. Michael had a push. They changed that. Hopefully it's working better.
Al Unser Jr. continues his pursuit. By the way, they finally pushed the car of Stan Fox to the garage area. He's out of the race.
As we're on board with Al Jr., watch his helmet pitching around, Paul. Look at the right-hand top of his helmet. That's an aerodynamic piece on the helmet to spoil the wind trying to lift the helmet. Doesn't look like it's working too good all the time, does it?
Let's go to the emergency medical center now. Jerry Punch is there with the medical director, Dr. Bach.
Well, Dr. Bach, just coming out, you've checked Danny Sullivan. What's the diagnosis?
Danny Sullivan is awake and alert. He suffered a minor contusion and abrasion to his left shin. He's also complaining of some dizziness. We're going to keep him here in the track hospital for observation right now to let you know as it progresses.
They will watch Danny Sullivan here for just a short period of time. Possibly that dizziness will clear when you stop that quickly. That certainly can be a serious problem with a possible concussion.
All right, well, we have another view of the accident. This courtesy of our friends over at Telex who supply the track feed. Watching Danny Sullivan come through the corner. Something broke. Something broke in the back end.
Something broke, Paul. As we see that from a different angle, we can see the car as it started going into the turn. It started going back and forth a little bit. Then as he got down into the turn, we watched the pieces coming off of it.
Another angle, but by this time it's already happened.
That definitely wasn't Danny Sullivan's fault. Something on the race car for sure broke. Now, we're going to have to watch the other two cars. Remember, Rick Mears and Emerson Fittipaldi. That's one of the things the Penske crew is pondering right now a bit.
Well, that was a sudden onset, a quick break, and that's the kind of thing I think you race drivers fear more than anything else. Here comes Rick Mears with just 100 miles in the 500 run complete now. This would not be scheduled. The crew changes all four tires on this car now.
Now remember, they changed all four the last time he came in, so he's still hunting for something. My guess is they're trying to find something to make it handle better, also worrying about what caused Danny's car to go just completely into the wall the way it did.
16 and a half seconds in and out of the pits for the three-time winner Rick Mears as they continue to search for the setup that will put him back in contention.
Mears, starting from the pole last year, faded very, very fast in that race, a race he was favored to win. It was again one of the favorites this year, and he's fading very fast again.
Roger Penske's other car, Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion, continues to lead the Indianapolis 500 now with just over 100 miles complete. Coverage of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The 74th running will return after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Gary Gerald in the Emerson Fittipaldi pit. The yellow flag is out. Everybody coming in. Emerson down off the Jackson away. Little Al Unser comes in just in front of him and ducks in for his service. And that Gallus team, so aggressive, so eager, now goes to work giving him his service. All of this under the yellow. Tony Bettenhausen encountered a problem on the track. Paul?
Well, there he is, the 16 car of Tony Bettenhausen under tow now. He has been in the pits twice already this race for two rather lengthy stops. So obviously serious problems on that car, and they finally manifest themselves on the racetrack. He was down right on the edge of the racing line, and so as a result of that, the yellow flag was displayed, and almost everyone decided it was time to go into the pits. Let's go down to Jerry Punch now.
Well, following the Danny Sullivan story, Paul, we are here with Chuck Sprague, the team manager for Penske Racing. And Chuck, a lot of concern in the Penske team about what may have happened to the Sullivan car. Do you have any idea?
I wish I did. I really wish I did. We're waiting for him to bring the car in now. We'd obviously like to look at it and make sure there's not some problem that's generic to the car. We don't think so. We've done a lot of testing. But all we know at this point is what we could see on the television monitor on the replays. We could see a flash or a puff of smoke from the back of the car, and then it just swapped ends and headed towards the wall. We just had some conversation with Danny about our strategy for the rest of the race. We got tied up in traffic and lost some time, and we were going to try a little different stagger and a few things on the next stop, try to tune the car for the end of the race. He was pretty happy with the way it was running, although we were fairly well back from Emerson. So at this point, we're just adopting a wait-and-see attitude, see what we can find out.
Something possibly just breaking in the back of the car? I mean, from what our monitors looked like the car just shifted and into the wall it went.
Yeah, boy, I really hope not. But until we get a look at the car and watch the replays a couple of times, it's really tough for us to say.
A lot of concern here because they have two other identical cars still in the race. They'd like to know what that problem was with Danny Sullivan.
First, Chuck Sprague, the Penske team manager, as A.J. Foyt makes his pit stop. intended for Purdue University, just up the road here, understands his engineering, and his concern, of course, is that if there is a faulty part in that car that displayed itself on Danny Sullivan's, then, well, it might show up on Rick Mears, it might show up on Fittipaldi's.
Well, there's certainly something that broke, Paul. You could just obviously see that something came loose right under the back end of the car.
Looked to me like it was inside the suspension or the half shaft.
Well, there's, you know, with a car going that fast and the camera that far away, it's hard to tell exactly what piece, but something broke. It could have been the tunnel come loose. It could have been one of the suspension arms.
There was a lot of concern in the Penske organization because they had the exhaust flow, about 1,000 degrees of exhaust, flowing onto the left rear half shaft of the car, and they had that all protected, coated, even a little wind generator to keep that from getting too hot, flexing.
Like
but this was on the other side of the car.
Right.
There is the Valvoline timing system driver summary. Valvoline helping with the timing here at the Indianapolis 500, and we look at the rundown for Fittipaldi. His pit stops look very long, but you have to remember they came under the yellow flag.
And again, when we talk about the ingredients of what it takes to win, luck is one of those ingredients. He has now shown bravery, and he has had luck.
Let's update the situation on Rick Mears. Here's Jack Arute.
And Paul, he's not having any luck at all. You heard about the loose condition. They came in, changed these tires. This is a blistered right rear. This is what a tire looks like when it's blistered. Not a problem with the tire, problem with the handling. The car is terribly loose. They're still chasing the setup.
Paul, when you can blister a tire this fast, as fast as he does in the race, it's really a bad handling car. Now, it wasn't that bad the last time they were driving on the track, so obviously the rainy weather has caused some sort of a problem.
So what is going through Rick Mears' mind right at this moment? He's got a car that is handling in a way that it wants to slide out and hit the wall. There's the car of Danny Sullivan still under wraps, but of course Chuck Sprague will be looking at it fast. And the other thing Rick and Emo both have to think about is what is wrong with this car, because if it breaks on their car, they're going to have a sudden trip into the wall too.
Well, Rick Mears is in 8th place. He's running almost a full lap behind the leader as they continue to tow Tony Bettenhausen's car back into the pit area.
Now, we've watched Rick Mears. He's one of the better for the oval tracks. We've watched him get way behind like this, and they'll just keep working on it until they do get it handling.
He stopped just a few moments ago. A.J. Foyt comes in again. They just put him up on the jacks and dropped him down. I wonder what that was, Bobby.
Boy, that one didn't make a lot of sense. I think they were fixing to do one thing, and he didn't want that, and he wanted something else.
Well, it goes for a record stop thus far. Only 5 seconds for Foyt in and out of the pits.
AJ's crew chief this year, Phil Casey, organizing that pit very well, but there's still a question of who really is the quarterback on that team, Phil Casey or AJ Foyt.
View from the Goodyear Blimp America. Tom Kinnett, the captain from Houston, Texas. Again, the 25th time that this blimp, or a Goodyear blimp, has floated over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the running of the 500. When we came to the track this morning, we would have thought that perhaps there would have been no aircraft over the ground. It was very, very foggy. Visibility quite limited throughout central Indiana. But then the sun came out and the speedway luck continued.
Paul, the flag on top of the tower isn't even moving an inch. It's about the quietest wind I've ever seen in Indianapolis.
Well, we started the race with only a 5-knot breeze. Most of the flags on the back of the Tower Terrace grandstand, you see them just off to the right, are hanging limp. That's got to help the race drivers.
Roberto Guerrero with an Alfa Romeo engine in the pits, one of 2 Alfa Romeo engines. Bobby's brother Al driving the other one. Neither have produced much power, Bobby.
And remember, there's 2 different types of March cars. Even though the same March you say it is, they're 2 different types, Sam. They're made by different companies, ironically.
So Roberto Guerrero, you may remember that tremendous finish when he had the lead of the 500 in the closing laps and then faltered coming out of the pits. Al Unser went past to pick up the win, his 4th Indianapolis victory.
Why did he take a ride? You see, Teo Fabi. Now, there is another car with an engine other than one of these dominant Chevrolet engines.
Now, take a look at this. We're receiving, as the team is, telemetry from the car, so we will be seeing his speed, the amount of throttle that he's giving that engine, and the G-forces that he feels as he moves in and out of the corners here. Direct and live from sensors on board that race car. 50 laps, 1/4 of the race now complete. We run under our 2nd yellow of the day. Average speed of the race in this Valvoline race summary at 171.14 miles an hour. Emerson Fittipaldi has led all the way. 2 caution flags. The first for Danny Sullivan when he cracked the turn 1 wall, and the second when Tony Bentonhausen had to be towed in. And now down at the start-finish line, the green flag comes out once again. Rick Mears is right there to acknowledge, as is the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal is lined up, running in second place behind Fittipaldi. Then the 5 car of Al Unser Jr. cycled into 3rd place. Coming out of those stops, Michael Andretti sits in 4th place. Ari Luyendyk is in 5th. And we are back up to speed and racing at the Indianapolis 500. 51 laps just completed by the leader. There's the fastest rookie in the field. Eddie Cheever takes a move to the inside, but here is the fight on the racetrack. Andretti and Unser battling side by side.
3 abreast going right into that turn. Positions are starting to become very important. Keep in mind when we look at Rick Mears, even though he was leading the pack, Paul, that's all there is between he and Fittipaldi of being a lap down, and he didn't stop the last time. So he's trying to gain that lap back.
Fighted for 3rd place. Al Unser Jr. has it. Michael Andretti is right behind and wants it. That's little Al moving under Pancho Carter, who comes up high in the groove and gives him plenty of room as they come through the corner, then has to reassume his line. But Pancho, one of the great race drivers here, he's never won here. He's only won 1 race in the Champ Cars, and that was the Michigan 500. But he knows who's around him and always gives him plenty of room.
Little Al pulling out to make that clean pass, was running roughly this same way at this point of the race last year, and also behind Emerson Fittipaldi. He's a man who likes to drive even his own street car himself. He won't let his wife or any of his friends drive. He always wants to be in control.
Now Al Unser Jr. comes inside and passes Cheever. Again, great experience there, despite the fact that Cheever is a rookie here. But he's got years on the Formula One, and he recognized the faster car, moved over as well. That's given an advantage to Al Unser Jr. because with those 2 passes of slower-moving cars, he has been able to move away from Michael Andretti. Now let's go down to Jack Arute and get an update on Al Unser Jr.
Well, Paul, Al Unser Jr.'s team is a little bit concerned. Thankfully, it's at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where he's lost part of his brake system. He does not have a full complement of brakes all the way around the car. In fact, he only has 2 in the rear. But they say they're not at all concerned because you don't need brakes at high speed here. As you know, you only burp the throttle just a bit, and if you're running right, you run flat out.
It still hurts you when you come into the pits. And I think what he might be doing today is he's been running carbon fiber disc brakes. So the rotors made out of carbon fiber material. If he's lost those, it won't hurt him on the racetrack, but it certainly will come into the pits, Paul.
By the way, it's the only race in the season being sanctioned by the United States Auto Club that you're allowed to use those kind of disc brakes. And there is Fittipaldi closing on the back end of Rick Mears, his teammate. Mears continues running in 8th place. Emerson Fittipaldi now has 54 laps in the record book. 200 laps of scheduled distance, or 500 miles. Turned his last lap at 218.15 miles an hour. With the 2 yellow flags, they're averaging 171.6 miles an hour. Fittipaldi continues his lead and now is trying to chase down his teammate Rick Mears. Rahal is second, followed by Little Al, then Michael, then Ari Luyendyk. So for the most part, a smooth 500-mile race. We'll be back with more action from Indianapolis right after this. There's the leader of the Indianapolis 500 with 59 laps complete, Emerson Fittipaldi. He has led right from the pole position in the green flag. He is making a masterful drive here at Indianapolis and running a blistering pace when the green flag is out. So he slowed down just a bit the past lap running through traffic. Here is the 2nd place car that belongs to Bobby Rahal, the Craco STP machine, and Debbie Rahal, Teresa Fittipaldi. Debbie had an accident, fell off of her horse. She is quite a rider. And last week she fell off the horse, injured herself, injured her neck, had some bruises to her face. But look at her, look at the spirit she shows as she's in. Mario Andretti at the head of the pit road, slowing down, coming into the pits.
Well, we can't see what's wrong with him yet, but he's coming in way too slow. I would have to guess his engine is totally dead.
Went past the number 9 car of Tom Sneva, parked on pit road right now.
Now let's see when they pull the hood off. They're moving too slow. Smoke coming out of the back. Obviously, he's got an engine or transmission going.
Oh, And once again, a great disappointment for Mario. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, it is an engine that has expired. The first Chevrolet of the race has gone out, and that is Mario Andretti. They're going to take the bonnet off, but it's all over. Not since 1969 has he seen victory lane.
When you see the smoke come out like that, it's pretty much done, and that's sad for Mario. How much bad luck can one man have?
It's terribly sad for Mario Andretti. He's fallen out of 17 of his 25 Indianapolis 500 starts. Only once has he seen the checkered flag. That's the 19 car Raul Boisel, the True Sports entry, and it brings out the yellow flag as it rolls to a stop on the backstretch with 62 laps complete. The leader is still Emerson Fittipaldi. Second place continues to be Bobby Rahal, followed by Al Unser Jr., and there is Pancho Carter's car against the wall in turn 4. Now, it seemed to me the caution was already out at that time. Pancho Carter takes the steering wheel off and begins to move around, so it appears that he is okay despite that heavy damage to the right side of the race car. So quickly, these track safety teams arrive at these damaged race cars, often rolling before the car has actually come to a stop.
The steam coming out of there is from the radiator. It's broken radiator, but of course that's not the problem. The wreck is the problem. Don't know exactly what happened.
Of course, that's one of last year's cars as the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, takes advantage of the yellow again and heads down into the pits. Of the last 263 laps run here at the Speedway, Fittipaldi has led 221 of them. 158 of them last year. In and out that quick as Fittipaldi continues dominance here at the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We'll be right back.
Without a hot dog. In Indy, 300,000 hot dogs are served in the month of May. String those dogs together, and would you believe this? They'd stretch 28 miles, or more than 11 times around the racetrack.
On the hook is Pancho Carter's car after its contact with the wall coming out of the fourth turn. We have some views of that accident for you. Remember, the race course was under yellow at the time this occurred. Take a look up at the top. You can see it as it picks up. Pancho's already spinning. It looked, Bobby, it's almost as if he was heading for the pit road.
Well, it does, Paul, but my guess on that would be is that he cut a tire. A little debris on the racetrack. Probably cut a tire. The car seems like it swerved one way. Let's look at this other one here, top of the line. He just started a massive spin. It was way too early for him to lose that race car. And the race car just violently spun. Now, normally that's a flat tire that causes that.
Take a look here. Again, Pancho Carter lost it really before the center of the turn. And slides to a stop, did not appear to be hurt. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Oh, Mario Andretti continues to be haunted by problems here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A blown engine.
Well, the blown engine, big surprise because it's quite early in the race, and we certainly didn't press that hard to take anything out of it. Just one of those things.
The track conditions, we're seeing a lot of cars that are awfully loose, blistering tires, major changes. What do you attribute all that to, Mario?
Well, the reason I blistered a tire, it's not the tire's fault. I picked up a puncture, and that induced the blistering. So I had no problem at all with the tires. The Goodyears is just running beautiful.
We'll have to wait until 1991 to see if Andretti can score his second.
Well, there is A.J. Foyt working his way around the track. The Valvoline Timing System driver summary. He currently runs in 6th place, and many people feel he is still capable of winning. A most fascinating driver, the winningest driver in all of IndyCar history. And Jack Arute took a very special look at A.J. Foyt.
For 33 consecutive years, A.J. Foyt has made this walk from Gasoline Alley to the front stretch of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and a ride in the Indy 500.
If somebody would have told me the first year I was fortunate enough to qualify here, that I would be here, for 5 decades and run this many different types of cars, the odds are just against you probably 1,000 to 1. I couldn't believe it the other day myself. After I qualified and talking about 33 years straight, I just couldn't believe it. I've had a long dry spell on championship cars, but I can't blame no one person for that. If I'm going to pick one person, I have to say it was myself. Like I said, after the family passed on, I lost a lot of interest in racing. I was there just to do something. But my heart and everything was not in it. I'm getting my heart back into it now. We're having a lot of fun. And I know I'm still old to try to run with some of the young boys, but I still think I can do it.
His 4 wins are only a part of the A.J. Foyt legend. Through the years, his temper has shared equal billing.
How'd that start? Well, I don't know. He run right square in my goddamn left front. What are you talking about? Tubing?
I've always felt that my good is offset my bad in racing. And just like I said when my father was dying, and I went to the 24-hour race at Daytona, he was the one that taught me into going. And bringing that trophy back to him in the hospital room, and had not run 24-hour races since 1967, I said to myself, if I ever never win another race, I could not be mad.
The fiery eyes of A.J. Foyt show the effects of 55 years upon this earth, but the intensity and the lure of racing at the Brickyard remains the same.
It means a lot to everybody that runs good, that knows Indianapolis. The people say it means nothing to them. They're not coming out to much anyway.
The Grandmaster A.J. Foyt. By contrast, the young Al Unser Jr., who's never won the Indianapolis 500, but last year he was oh so close. Foyt is in 6th place, anticipating a green flag, as the track should be clear. Bobby Unser was seeing a rather transient track surface this year. A lot of changes, and not many of the teams have been able to follow with it.
A lot of it's caused by this weather, Paul. Lord only knows we've had enough rain.
All right, Fittipaldi's lined up right there, ready to go. Now they have indicated that they will go yet another lap while they get all of the emergency crews back on station.
Curiously, A.J. Foyt never did win back-to-back Indy 500, but Emerson Fittipaldi, who you see driving by right there, is certainly in a position to do that right now. The last time it was done was by Bobby's brother Al in 1970 and 71. Shows you how tough it is to win this place twice in a row.
There's Emerson Fittipaldi, now Al Unser Jr., currently in 2nd place. Got there with those pit stops. Bobby Rahal is the 3rd place car. In 4th place now is Michael Andretti. His father, of course, out of the race with a blown engine. Let's go to Gary Gerald down in the Mears pit.
Paul, we were just talking over here on the wall with Richard Buck, the crew chief for Rick Mears. They continue to chase that problem where the chassis was so loose in the setup. They think they're making progress. They're anxious to go green to see if the latest adjustment will help. I asked Richard if they asked Rick to move over to let Emerson get by and get a clean racetrack. He said, well, we wanted them to race, but they got in some traffic and Emerson was able to get by. It's still everybody's race, team to team, under the Penske umbrella. Emerson, of course, has the big hand right now. Rick has got to make up a full lap. He's got a long afternoon cut out for him if he's to win his 4th at Indy. Paul?
Rick right there in 7th place. He got his lap back, then he pitted, went lap down again. Bobby, was that a mistake for him?
Not really. His mistake came early when he got out of sequence because he had to come in and change those blistered tires. He was handling very bad. Unfortunately, he's in bad position now, but they can gain this back. If he ever got his car handling, he's every bit as fast as Emma when things are right.
But the Penske team is very much under attack by the younger Rick Gallis team. Gallis's car is lying 2nd and 3rd with Rahal and Little Al. Penske's team, and you see him there, they've got Fittipaldi out front, but they've got the problem with Sullivan in the wall, and they've got Rick Mears in trouble. So they are really, of their 3 cars, down to 1, and Gallis has both his men in attack position.
Pace car maneuvers through the 4th turn now. The field begins to accelerate, led by Emerson Fittipaldi as the green flag comes out. And they're back racing once again. And Al Unser Jr. streaks after Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal, now little Michael comes up behind Rahal. The first 4 cars all right together on the racetrack. Now broken up. And Fittipaldi has an advantage. He can move away. Now Little Al comes in pursuit. Rahal is right there. Rahal comes inside of Little Al. Michael Andretti closes as well as Rahal goes into 2nd place, picking off Little Al, and Michael Andretti begins to charge.
That's kind of similar to what happened with Little Al and Emma last year. He caught a car that he was lapping. He lost a little tiny bit of his head of steam there, his momentum. And hey, Rahal just went right by because he was in the position.
The Bobby Rahal, for the first time in the 500 with Chevrolet power, what is believed to be the critical factor in winning a 500, having that Chevy engine on board. And he's really making it go to work for him. Little Al is now closed up and is back chasing. But Sam Posey, that's got to be a bit of a demoralizing moment for a driver like Little Al, especially since he knows that it's happened before at critical times.
Except that there's quite a... This is looking from Rahal's car back at Little Al. You know, there's still a lot of race left, though, and I think Little Al knows very well that he can stay second, third, fourth, as long as he's on the lead lap, and you see him right behind Rahal there, ready to counterattack.
He's tucked in. He comes to the inside on the home straight, and he comes around Bobby Rahal, so the fight continues for second place. Lap 71 just completed by the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now, there was a deal where you saw Little Al come by, but he got alongside, and Rahal physically let him go on by because he didn't think the confrontation was worth having any problems. Now, think of what Emo did earlier in the race. When he got that far alongside on the outside, or somebody did to him, he just kept right on going on the outside, Paul.
Well, Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader of the race, is now within 10 laps of breaking a rather substantive record here. In 1927, Frank Lockhart led the opening 81 laps of the Indianapolis 500, setting a record which has stood since then. 71 laps are now complete, and Fittipaldi is closing down on Frank Lockhart's record. Debbie Rahal, Shelley Unser watching the pits as their husbands are at work on the race course.
Running 217 mile an hour laps. The track is obviously getting a little bit better. Of course, the drivers are getting a little bit more used to it.
The advantage of having a two-car team, of course, is that you amortize all the development costs, expenses of engineers, engine development, and then you have the numerical double chance once the race begins. And I think often two teammates will race harder against each other than they will sometimes even against the opposition. It's really brought Little Al to life this year, Bobby.
Now there's Michael Andretti coming up behind Bobby Rahal. Michael's been a little bit short from what we expected of him today. He was the other guy that I kind of picked to be the rabbit, get up there and run with Emo. I think Michael's car maybe is not adjusted just to what he likes at the moment.
Well, he is the only hope of the Newman Haas stable at the moment. You're on board now with Michael.
But he, too, is running a race a lot like the one he ran last year, where he was deep in the field but kind of coming up steadily. And around the 160th lap, he took the lead. So Michael Andretti is nowhere nearly out of this thing yet.
And there is Michael Andretti. He's never won here at Indianapolis. Twice he's run at the Michigan 500. Came home with victories there. Let's go to Jerry Punch now, who is with Dr. Henry Bach.
Henry, you just checked Pancho Carter out. How is he doing?
Pancho Carter was uninjured, will be released from here shortly.
Now, how about Danny Sullivan? I understand he's been transferred away.
Yes, he has. He was complaining of some increasing dizziness after his crash on the track, so we sent him down to Methodist for some observation and some further tests.
Not uncommon at all for that kind of deceleration injury for Danny Sullivan. Thank you.
Of course, that kind of injury is the kind of thing. There's Rick Gallis, Al Unser Jr.'s owner. That's the kind of injury that took the life of Mark Donohue when he was driving in Formula One for Roger Penske, and now well recognized by the medical team, so they don't take any chance. Somebody says he's dizzy, then they get him right to the hospital and put him under observation. Bobby, what's that hanging out of the cockpit?
Right now, I can't tell you. It shouldn't be there. It hasn't been there, so it's something extra for sure.
It's like a piece of the shoulder strap. Might just be the tug down. No, it's not that. The shoulder straps are down nice and tight.
It's probably the tape, Paul. You can see the headrest on the side over there. Probably the tape from that has just come undone.
So not a critical matter.
Not a critical matter, no.
You see on the right of the screen there that blue strap up to his helmet. That keeps his helmet and his head from sliding out because of the G-forces in the left-hand turn.
And the cords right on the bottom, that's his radio. That's how Rick Gallis talks to him and how he communicates back to Rick Gallis.
Well, Emerson Fittipaldi continues to speed at 213 miles an hour on the last lap toward Frank Lockhart's record. 76 laps are complete here, and there he is, Fittipaldi, still leading this race.
This is a classic battle between the Penske team, who is so much a part now of the tradition and history of this place, and Rick Gallis's younger team coming on strong.
Emerson Fittipaldi trying to give his car owner Roger Penske his 5th win in the last 7 years. Second is Al Unser Jr. ABC Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 will return after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're back at the Indianapolis 500. I'm Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, Jack Arute, Gary Gerald, and Jerry Punch. Emerson Fittipaldi, as he flashed over the start-finish line just now, equaled the record of Frank Lockhart, leading the opening 81 laps of the Indianapolis 500. The last time that was done was by Lockhart back in 1927, 63 years ago. When he comes around again, he will go into the record books as having led the most laps from the start of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The second place runner is the car right behind him on the track, and that is Al Unser Jr., followed by Bobby Rahal, then Michael Andretti, and Arie Luyendyk. So far, a true tone has not been set to this race. You can see A.J. Foyt is still there running on the leader lap. It seems that many of the teams are playing it very safe, Bobby Unser, looking at their own tactic. The 41 car is John Andretti. He runs in 8th place right now.
I think there's been more game planning going into this race than we normally have. And think about all the lack of practice during the month of May. I still think that's having a factor on the race.
This is a pretty good run for John Andretti, who got the ride really just before the start of the season when he finally was able to move in this car and Porsche decided to field 2 cars.
And often he's been the fastest on the team, and often he's been one of the fastest guys in the practice here at the Speedway.
Average speed of the race thus far, 168.6 miles an hour, but Fittipaldi has got the speed of his car up, averaging about 217 miles an hour each lap.
His last lap, for example, was 218 and a half. Now, normally we would expect him to have been about 220, 222 right there.
There's Emerson Fittipaldi as he works his way around this track. Let's get an update. Jack Arute.
Paul, you talk about getting a hard handle on getting the tone. Here in the pits, it's the same way. I'm with Rick Reineman, the crew chief for Emerson Fittipaldi. You're not at all concerned. You've made no changes to the car. In fact, in that last pit stop, you didn't even change tires.
No, so far, apparently we pitted right with the setup. The track condition is suitable for where we have the car. He's happy with what he's got.
Now, what about the problem on Danny Sullivan's car? Nigel Bennett, Truck Sprague, talked to you, told you what they think is wrong. Are you concerned that that might fail on your machine as well?
Not really. It's we've checked our wheels, the ones that we did change, and we're happy with what we see.
They're concerned that it might have been a bearing problem, but no concerns, as you can see here. And as you said, kind of tough to get a handle on just what the tone of this race is.
Rick Reineman, great at monitoring Emerson Fittipaldi, a new crew chief for Fittipaldi this year. Rick, as a chief mechanic, has not yet scored a win with the Indianapolis cars. They're on board with Bobby Rahal as Rahal threads his way through traffic, running in 3rd place. You got a glimpse for a moment there at the top of his helmet. Most of the drivers this year have some sort of aerodynamic device on the top of the helmet, and what's that's doing, Bobby, is smoothing the air over the helmet and trying to break it up. You see him there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen on the upper right side of his helmet. Mostly that's keeping the wind from just pulling you right out of the cockpit.
For sure, Paul. The helmet is somewhat like a wing. There's every different type being tried here that you could ever imagine, but the idea of that is a spoiler to stop the air from sticking to the helmet, make the air tumble over it, therefore leaving the helmet alone, so it won't just jerk it up.
On board with Bobby Rahal, the 1986 winner of the race. Al Unser Jr. rolls down into the pits, comes out of his position on the track, lined up behind the leader. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, there was concern about those front brakes. We just asked Rick Gallis a lap before he comes in now for service if they still had the problem. He said no, amazingly it had gone away. You saw he hit the marks right on. He's off the jacks. He's about ready to roll. It's roughly 13 seconds and everything looking much better right now for Al Unser Jr.
13.6 seconds. And here comes Fittipaldi. Now, will he be able to catch Al Unser Jr. and put him a lap down? Little Al's on a pretty good roll right now. It's going to be close. This is the scheduled time, by the way, for stops. We expect to see a number of the crews stop in the next few minutes.
Paul, that was really, for my calculations, was too early for little Al to be coming in. I expect that they wanted to do some sort of an adjustment to it because he'd only stayed out like 23 laps.
The Leafs are playing it very careful here. maximum distance you might be able to go if you're really to push it, Bobby?
Oh, about 33 laps should be the most today, but they work and add it. They add laps to it as they go. They started off, their plan was 25 laps on the first pit stop, and then to go on up to around 30 laps. Now, little Al should have been 30, but it was 23 instead.
Emerson Fittipaldi continues to dominate the Indianapolis 500 with 87 laps complete, breaking Frank Lockhart's 63-year-old record. Will he win this race again? We'll be back. Back at Indianapolis, you saw A.J. Foyt roll into the pits. And Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader of the race, rolls down toward the Penske team for service. Here's Jack.
There is anticipation on all the faces of Team Penske as they go to service Emerson Fittipaldi. Very methodical, taking on the fuel. Emerson looks over, gets a signal from his wife.
View there from Rick Reinemann's camera mounted up on his helmet headset as he changed that right front tire. Reinemann, the chief mechanic, and Fittipaldi with what appeared to be a fairly smooth stop. No problems there. 15.8 seconds, Bobby.
Yeah, that was a good stop, a good fast stop. For this time of the race, hey, that one you can't complain about.
First stop under the green flag, and as a result, this car moves to the lead. It's Michael Andretti out in front, but he will cycle down into the pits as well. As you can see, he threads across that line and heads down for a pit stop as well.
Well, he was sure going awful slow back in there, Paul. Have to see if Michael gets any different type of pit work as he comes in.
Michael Andretti on the roll down into the Newman Haas pits. With these pit stops under green, the lead will change several times. A lot of smoke at the back of the car. Now some fire as they pull off.
The rear brake is on fire, Paul.
Well, I'm surprised that would happen, that it even use it that much. Look at the rotor there. Look at fire still coming off the brake rotor, as now they're going to try to disassemble that rotor.
Here in Indianapolis, Paul, some of the cars, like we mentioned earlier, have been using different brakes, trying to get the reciprocating weight from the wheels a little bit lighter, get the unsprung weight a little bit lighter, and they're causing problems.
Here comes the current leader of the race. That's Arie Luyendyk, who picked up the lead as a result of these stops. He comes in. Team Cheerson goes to work on his car. We're seeing a lot of 4 tire changes during these stops, Bobby.
I think they're still chasing the chassis settings. I think the rain on this racetrack has really upset everybody. Their work is not working out for them today. But Arie's was a normal stop. This one is not.
This is not. Andretti luck at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as Michael sits silent, hoping that they will get that car back out into action. And as the cycle of this stop continues, it is now Fittipaldi who is back in the lead of the race.
Remember, almost had no problems either. Do these cars happen? The sad thing, Mario and Michael both with problems. Michael's problem is going to be very serious because he had a good fire in the right rear.
We talk again about luck and what it takes to win. Emerson Fittipaldi is enjoying good luck in the form of Michael Andretti's bad luck. Michael was a threat to Emerson and to anybody in this race, but obviously this brake rotor problem has taken him out of it.
You may notice a lot of marks, dirt, oily surface on the front of Michael's car. You saw the same thing when Fittipaldi's car was in for a stop on the roll bar protection over his helmet. So apparently there is some degree of oil out on that course, and that's affecting the handling of these cars as well. No one, speaking of handling, seems to have a handle on this Indianapolis 500 at the moment other than Fittipaldi. Everyone else seems to be running on strategy, like this man, the second place car, Al Unser Jr. They seem to run their own race at their own pace, knowing that, in fact, generally the Indianapolis 500 is determined in the last 100 miles, and even more specifically in the last 25 miles, where the lead has changed often in past years.
Boy, you can see how close little Al got to the wall right there. I think this car's handling a little bit better. Look at how close that was, Paul. Now, I think this car's handling a little bit better. Otherwise, he'd be a little bit further away from the wall.
We were talking about what is the essential character of the race, and with Michael Andretti's retirement, I venture that it's the battle between the two car owners and their teams, Roger Penske and Rick Gallas, because there really is no other car from any other team, with the possible exception of Luyendyk, that at this point seems to have a realistic chance to win this thing.
But staying in the fight is the 1986 winner of the Indianapolis 500, and that rain-delayed race. Finally, when it got going, Bobby Rahal was able to get past in the closing laps. He now runs in third place here at the Speedway. His wife, Debbie, up on the scoring stand as she keeps track of her husband. So Emerson Fittipaldi has now gone from 25th to 17th in lap leader standings and running of the Indianapolis 500. Will it be a replay of last year? Al Unser Jr. runs in second. Back at Indianapolis, live coverage of the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500. Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader, has now completed 101 laps. That is the minimum official distance of the race, but weather does not appear to be a problem here today. Despite the fact of the buildup of some clouds over the speedway, it appears that we are going to race this thing right to the 500th mile. A.J. Foyt runs on the track. Rick Mears is right behind him in a fight for 5th place. And there is Rahal. Rahal moves into second place, getting around Al Unser Jr. Keep in mind, as you watch Bobby Rahal, the number 18 car, the number 18, Sam Posey, has never won the Indianapolis 500. And sometimes it's just little facts like that that can actually affect the performance of a driver. I'm sure a number of people have mentioned that to him this month.
Yes, but Rahal, of all the drivers in this race, is probably the smartest. He would never let you know that. He's great at being personable, approachable, open. I doubt that any kind of superstition would affect him at all. Having said that, by the way, he managed to give up smoking by working with a hypnotist.
Sam, I tried the same thing. The hypnotist didn't work for me. I found he just had to quit.
I wouldn't touch that one with anything, Bobby. Let that one sit right there. So Al Unser Jr. threads his way around the track, running in third place now. Ari Leyendijk is continuing to run right in fourth place, so he's staying in contact with the leader. But Fittipaldi, boy, he appears to be difficult to catch on this track. But still, it again seems like everybody is running their own game plan very, very carefully.
I think they're going to be sticking to it. We haven't seen any changes so far. So far, Rick Mears has not been able to get his car up either, Paul.
Well, our auto racing coverage continues throughout this day here on ABC Sports. When we're done here, it will be the International Race of Champions, the first round of the 1990 series. And then Formula One's most prestigious event, the Grand Prix of Monaco. Same-day satellite feed later today right here on ABC. 7 hours of racing lined up for you. Currently, it's the Indianapolis 500, the 74th edition. Emerson Fittipaldi has been the key factor. He started on the pole. He moved immediately to the lead. He stayed in the lead until about lap 84. And then, making stops under the green for the first time in the race, he relinquished the lead for a couple of laps while they cycled through the pit stops. And now comes back in front right again. He is being chased by Bobby Rahal. Al Unser Jr. runs in third.
Whomever wins this race will win a purse probably of over $1 million. There are 200 laps in the race. That calculates to $5,000 per lap earnings, which compares interestingly with about $800 for a pitch in Major League Baseball.
Here's our Valvoline race summary as we're just past the halfway point now, and this is actually at the halfway point. Fittipaldi led 98 of those 100 laps at an average speed of 174.1 miles an hour. 3 cautions, 2 of those for accidents, one involving Danny Sullivan, who has been transported to Methodist Hospital of Indiana for observation, the other involving Pancho Carter, who was not injured. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Oh, we're looking down inside the right rear wheel of Michael Andretti's car. You can see the tremendous heat that was generated. They've now determined, they believe, that it was a right rear wheel bearing that failed. They thought maybe they had a fractured rear upright. Apparently that's not the case. They continue to work on the car. Michael's still in the cockpit.
Ari Leyendijk challenges Al Unser and moves past and picks up third place just that quickly. He was able to close down on little Al and pick up the position.
Well, it looks like there's something slowing down on his car just a little bit, Paul. We're going to have to watch it a little bit closer and see what it is. Although Leyendijk has been fast all month, he's certainly been fast today.
Now, Bobby Unser, I have to ask you about wheel bearings. We heard Chuck Sprague when he was talking about the Penske car, the Danny Sullivan machine. wondering whether or not they had a wheel bearing problem. Now we've seen Michael with one.
Well, they don't use brakes here, so we're going to have to, don't use them on the track. So you're going to have to cut out the heat from the brake. What happens is the wheel bearings are really close together. They keep them as close together they can so they can get the air through the tunnels and out the back of the car. Get it out of the air straight. Now, often they get loaded too heavy. Think about all the G-force that they pull here. Makes it hard on the bearings.
As you pointed out at the beginning of our coverage here, 200 miles is the furthest distance that any of these cars have raced this year. We're now beyond the 250-mile mark, so now things may develop that may in fact have never been seen before.
That's right, and it will relate often like to a certain model car or the new cars. If one car has a problem, very often all the other cars like it may have the same type.
So Arie Luyendyk with perhaps the best day of his life. Born in the Netherlands, now lives in Arizona and running in third place at the Indianapolis 500. ABC Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 will return after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back live at the Indianapolis 500, past the halfway point. 113 laps are complete. Emerson Fittipaldi turned his last lap in the lead at 216.5 miles an hour. Second place is Bobby Rahal. Third place is Arie Luyendyk. Al Unser Jr. has dropped back to fourth. And right now, running up in fifth place is Rick Mears. But he is well off the leader's pace. Only the top five are on the same lap with Emerson Fittipaldi. Basically, you've seen everything that's mattered at the front of the field. It has been a strange Indianapolis 500, with most of the front of the order remaining static as we look at the 30 car, the Domino's machine of Arie Luyendyk, working his way on to the main stretch. An interesting race driver. Grew up in the Netherlands, came over to the United States trying to get an opportunity in the Indycars, has been very skillful, but has never seen the checkered flag as the leader of a race.
Driving for a new team, the Doug Shearson team. Very good team. Team Little Al right there used to drive for.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
Al Unser Jr. will be the first of the front runners to come into the pits. The reason, the car continues to be unbalanced. They are chasing the handling on the car. They made an adjustment after blistering a rear tire before. They have brought him in early. We talked to Rick Gallis concerning it. He said we just haven't hit the numbers. Remember we talked about a battle of quarters of an inch? Well, that's the problem here. You make one slight turn, and it's only worth 1 degree. You've got to stay within the confines of a quarter of an inch in adjustments.
16.2 seconds in and out.
As we watch the front wings be let down a little bit, or he backed off the front wings a little bit, which would mean less pressure on the front, or trying not to blister that tire again.
And Arie Luyendyk went past and so picked up third place when Little Al made that rather early pit stop.
We talked about the ingredients that it takes to win. You see now a seesawing battle on technology as the team is trying to get their cars set up. It's a battle that Rick Mears has been losing, of course. Al Unser is starting to have trouble. Arie Luyendyk looking very, very good in that department right now.
Arie Luyendyk, the 30 car, the Valvoline driver summary. He runs in third place right now. He's had some terrific laps in this race. Pit stops, remember that number is being affected by the fact that several of them were made under caution position so they could take plenty of time during those stops. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Paul, two concerns for Doug Shearson and the Arie Luyendyk team. A slight push, not a major problem. A brake problem, that's what they're concerned about. Slow entry on their next pit stop. Paul?
Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader, rolls into the Penske pit. Here's Jack.
Interesting contrast here as Emerson Fittipaldi's crew goes to work. They are not, at least seemingly not at all concerned. They had a slight problem as we look at the helmet cam with taking off the left front tire, but they are going about their business in a very business-like manner. They have not made major adjustments to their car all afternoon, and he is off and away in a very efficient stop.
Washes the back end as he came out of there, Sam.
Formula One style. He did that the last time, too. The interesting thing about Emerson Fittipaldi is on Thursday, when they last ran on the track, he picked a set of tires that he is going to save for the last part of this race. He has a set of tires ready to go for that last 100 miles or so that are the best handling set he has ever had on that car. So in the back of his mind, whatever is going on now is just gravy. He knows he's going to come on very strong at the end of this race.
Fittipaldi coming up to speed after his pit stop on lap 117 of the Indianapolis 500. Bobby Rahal assumes the top spot with Fittipaldi's few seconds in the pits. Just that fast, the leader changes, but it's been changing only with the stops. The key factor throughout the race has been Fittipaldi.
You made the point, Paul. Ray Hall is yet to make his stop. He's got to come in pretty quick, so he's leading just because Emo stopped.
Bobby Rahal drops low there, but no, that wasn't a signal that he was going in. He's back on the main stretch and continuing to accelerate as he comes past Eddie Cheever. Let's get an update from the Fittipaldi pit. The light indicating, by the way, low fuel there on Bobby Rahal's dash. That should tell him that any time he should come in. Now let's go to Fittipaldi's pit.
Paul, we may have identified the first chink in Fittipaldi's armor. A tire is being pulled away right now, being taken out of pit road that was blistered. The right rear tire has begun to blister on Emerson Fittipaldi's car. Again, now they're going to have to chase the handle.
Now the problem that has faced so many others here at the Indianapolis 500 faces the leader of the race, Bobby Unser.
Now this comes down to the track conditions. There's Ray Hall coming in the pits now, but it comes down to the track conditions. There's been no rubber on the track when the race started. It was a total clean track. It's killing the tires to some degree.
So Bobby Rahal, the leader of the race, at least for the moment, rolls down into the pit area. He's a teammate with Al Unser as part of that Gallus-Braco combination, Rick Gallus and Maury Cranes.
And so far from where we're sitting, we see no adjustment being made to the car, nothing to the front wing. That would be a good indication that if they changed anything, it was only the stagger. Probably he was happy with the car.
Long stop, 18 seconds as Fittipaldi surges his way back toward the front.
There's better communication between driver and the pits than there has ever been. So doubtless Emerson already knows that his last right rear tire that came off the car has blistered. He will now be trying to favor that a little bit in this segment of the race. It's a smarter race being run these days at Indianapolis than ever before. The man in the car is not trying to be the complete quarterback. He is just taking instructions from the men. Here's A.J. Foyt in the pits. Foyt is having one terrific day, Paul.
A.J. Foyt running in 5th place as he came in for this stop. And he looks up at his crew members. Phil Casey, the crew chief this year on this car.
When A.J. said he was back, what he really meant, I think, was he was back trying to win. He really hasn't been trying that hard the last 2 years.
And here comes the leader of the race, Arie Luyendyk, in. And with this stop, he will no doubt give the lead over to Emerson Fittipaldi. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, the concern is with the brakes. He actually locks them up a bit as he gets in, but he does hit the mark. Shearson told us that they were concerned the brakes aren't as good as they would have liked. We watch now as the wheels go on routinely. No adjustment that we can see from our vantage point at the nose. Everything looking real good. What a story this would be if Arie Luyendyk could win this race, and he lights up the tires. Huge cloud of smoke as he roars away.
He's out of there in just under 17 seconds, but you saw Emerson Fittipaldi go back into the lead. So he continues his run at the front of the field as Luyendyk comes back up to speed.
Emo still got a hold of things, but we've got to keep an eye on it. Remember, Emo blistered a tire. That means that he's having somewhat the same problems as the other guys.
We're not seeing out of Fittipaldi's run as we look at his wife Teresa the consistency of driving that we have seen from him in the past as he's ducked below the line a number of times. Remember last year that was an official problem. They were worried about running 4 below. This year they say, well, run wherever you need to, and Fittipaldi appears to need to duck down below the white line to get around. We'll be back with more coverage of the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500. Fittipaldi is the leader. We're back live at the Indianapolis 500. I'm Paul Page, and you can see Emerson Fittipaldi working his way down the main stretch. Will he be the first man to go back-to-back wins since Al Unser did it back at the end of the 70s? He just moved around his teammate, Rick Mears, and now Rick is 2 laps behind the lead.
Rick has not been able to get his car fixed, Paul. He's been lapped again by Emo, as you just mentioned, and he's just not going anywhere. When I clock him, the lap speeds, he's running slow. It's not the Rick Mears as we know.
You know, Bobby, what's so surprising to me, we're on board with Rick Mears' car right there. Not only is a television signal being sent from this car, but there's telemetry, all kinds of data being sent back to the Penske pit from Fittipaldi's car, from the Porsches. Why aren't they getting a better handle on this track?
They just missed it because of all the rain, because of the lack of practice all month, because of the different types of racetracks that they've run on. Almost every day that they ran, with the exception of qualifying, was very high high wind. Now look at the rubber on the track. You can see every streak of it rather than just seeing a great big wide car-and-a-half width wide groove that you normally see here. There's just not much down.
And the car's adjustability exists within a range. And if you're just too far off in one direction, you can't bring it back no matter what you do. You just don't have enough adjustment.
Sam, it's going to take springs and some other deals, some other parts of those cars to change them. There just isn't time in the race to do it.
Emerson Fittipaldi slowed down a bit now. He ran his last lap. This is slowing down at 211.9 miles an hour. The average speed of the race is 180.1 miles an hour. Continuing at that pace, Fittipaldi would in fact set a record for the 500 miles, but there is still some distance, of course, to go. There's Rick Mears. He runs in 5th off the leader's pace. 3-time winner of the 500. Never started from the center of the front row as he did today. Probably he started from the front row more than any other man.
Probably there's nobody in the race more technically minded than Rick and more aware of his predicament, more struggling to come up with something that he can do to fix it. But 2 laps down now, that's a long way to have to make up.
We should mention that Michael Andretti had a rather lengthy pit stop of 15 minutes. You saw when he came in and he had that wheel bearing problem. They have made repairs to that car, and he's back running on the circuit.
Yes, and keep in mind the repairs may not be as good as they would be if they had time to go back to the garage and do it. But back on Rick Mears, it's very seldom we ever see this man miss his setup as far as he's missed it today.
There's Chris Mears, his wife. She sits up in the center of the Penske pit organization there, timing her husband, making notation of his time and speed every time he flashes across that start-finish line. Fittipaldi still out in front of this race. Comes around one of the Granatelli cars. Moves to the inside. Vince Granatelli following in his father's tradition. Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, retired from racing and decided to come back in the Indy cars. We asked him what his motivation was to keep going.
If I have to pay now to drive a racing car, I would pay and drive a racing car. And I think that shows how much love and how much motivation I have just to drive a racing car. And for the sport to be doing the whole championship here, doing the whole series, I enjoy it. I mean, I have this desire to win is more than ever because I just love the sport.
And believe me, he could pay if he had to drive a racing car because his outside businesses in Citrus Road, clothing, men's clothing, speedboats, auto accessories, especially wheels, which he enjoys designing himself, auto dealerships, all added up last year to more than $50 million worth of income. So this man is a one-man conglomerate.
And an update on the driving summary for Emerson Fittipaldi to this point in the race. His fastest lap, pretty good at 222 miles an hour, Bobby.
That's very fast, Paul, but that shows one thing, that the potential was there to do it, but he slowed down right now, and I reckon that's his team that's slowing him down. Tell him to save the car and maybe save a little bit of fuel.
Jack Arute has an update on Emerson.
Well, the benefit of being part of a 3-car team, Paul Page. We've talked and documented the situation with Rick Mears going 2 laps down. We checked with them in Rick Mears' pit. They feel they have solved their blistering problem, their handling problem. They've passed that information on up to the Brain Trust further up pit road here. That, of course, Rick Reineman and the crew for Emerson Fittipaldi. They did say, however, they were concerned as to whether the fix would work or not in terms of how to solve the blistering problem on Emerson Fittipaldi's car. What they did, they added some more wing.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, Teresa Fittipaldi, every time her husband comes along, she gestures toward him. She's infusing him, she says, with energy to continue on. And she did a pretty good job of it last year.
That was horsepower. It would really help.
Jim Crawford as he makes a stop. Buick-powered machine. Crawford, you'll remember, did that little extra airborne flight. Maybe came in and gave him aviator's wings as a result of flying across the short chute at the south end.
The guy's been hurt here so many times, it's a wonder he keeps coming back. Very nice person and an awfully good race driver, Paul.
Jim Crawford running 19th. Yes, one of the true gentlemen here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is Scott Brayton. Now he's running 7th right now with perhaps the best improvement thus far He started 26, now runs 7th. Here comes Fittipaldi heading for the pits. Here's Jack.
This is definitely an unscheduled pit stop. A quick survey of the tires all the way around. Still going methodically around the car, even though, as we said, this is an unscheduled stop. The crew is adding fuel, taking advantage of this, but this will be costly for Fittipaldi in his chase for the lead. Another blistered right rear tire, Paul.
15 seconds in and out as they fight a changing course surface here. Bobby Unser has touched on it before. We'll do it again. It's rained a great deal here during the practice. Bobby Rahal, of course, picked up the lead of the race with that stop by Fittipaldi. It's rained so much that it's washed the groove away that the cars wore in during the practice. Very, very heavy rain. And as a result, the last time that they tested was on Thursday. They didn't get a good handle with the rain since Thursday on what this track was. It was a guess for everybody.
Okay, but you keep saying they, and in a sense, the affliction is really hitting the Penske team more than the Lolas. Here is a Lola, Bobby Rahal, running fine, no blistering problem.
Well, that's a point well taken.
But on the other side of that coin, the Lolas haven't been going as quite as fast as the Penske's. In all good faith, Sam. And the track, when it's green, you can hardly see the groove now, and we're well into the race. You just can't see the groove, so there's just not much down.
Bobby Rahal, one of the first of the truly versatile race drivers who was skillful both on road courses, temporary circuits, and ovals. He led that wave of new drivers to come into the sport. There, reminiscent of last year, there's Emerson Fittipaldi, and right behind him is Al Unser Jr., and Michael Andretti is in there as well. It is the battle developing for third place. But it is well behind the first two cars. As a result of Fittipaldi's stop, he dropped back well into the field into third. And Ari Lyondike was able to move up into second.
But it puts little Al, who's looking at Fittipaldi, puts them right together. Michael's not a factor, and if it gets too thick in there with competition, I think Michael will get out of the way so the other guys can race.
So Emerson Fittipaldi now fighting some handling problems on his car. In the pit area while we watch Fittipaldi circle, Roberto Guerrero's number 20 Alfa is being pushed back to the garage area. Dominic Dobson has been in for some time with a rather lengthy stop. The Tony Bentonhausen car has also been in for a very long time. And now the team finally decides to push it back to the garage area as Michael lines up behind Emo on the home stretch.
Emerson spent 45 minutes in the Penske garage yesterday just sitting in the cockpit of his car. He's made a tradition out of this the day before the race. Just getting a feeling. You see the view from Michael Andretti's car. Just getting a feeling for the car.
Michael Andretti chasing Fittipaldi, now trying him on the backstretch. Michael Andretti moves to the inside, gets a little better acceleration and gets to the corner ahead of Emerson Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti picks up the place.
Now, remember another thing. Michael has been in the pits for 15 or 20 minutes. He's only wanting to go on down the road. He has plenty of fuel, new tires, everything's fresh. The car's almost even cool again. Fittipaldi, on the other hand, has a blistering right rear problem. He has to slow down. He's been told, slow down or you're not going to even have a chance of winning this race.
All right, so apparently the work that was done on this car during that rather lengthy stop has worked. And Michael starts to work his way back up through the field, but he's running 22nd.
But the motivation for Michael is set a track record, and it's quite possible that he could do that right now.
So Michael running at speed on the Indianapolis Speedway, and Bobby Rahal enjoying, for the moment at least, the top slot on this track, running first place in car 18. Last lap turn to 214.6 miles an hour. In second place is Ari Lyondike, who has been right in the center of the fight most of the day. He's staying in there.
He really has been, Paul. He hasn't been really leading a whole bunch of the race by passing everybody, but the teamwork that they've been doing, the way he's been driving, the chassis settings has obviously all been fairly good today.
Bobby's a terrific communicator. He really attracts people.
Yellow flag comes out. No indication yet as to why. But they've gone yellow, Sam. That's Dwayne Sweeney with the yellow flag.
It looks like it could be debris on the track, Paul. We don't see anything as of yet.
And they say, well, look at the back end there at the right rear tire. That's John Andretti.
He had been pushing it so hard Now the question is, why does that right rear tire look bad? Did it happen before or after the spin?
It's certainly leaning in. It's not standing up the way the tire should, but we haven't seen a good camber position yet.
He's obviously okay. The rest of the field has slowed down, and emergency crews are on the way there.
He had run as high as 7th in that Porsche.
Great little run as Bobby Rahal rolls into the pits. Here's Jack.
Rahal showing a lot of oil on his helmet from this battle here in the first 140 laps. The Craco crew has gone to work. They have changed all 4 tires. A little bit of difficulty on the right rear, however. The thumbs-up signal has been given. Puts it back in gear. And you can hear the enthusiasm here in the crew. They like that one.
So as Rahal rolls out, second place Ari Luyendyk rolls in. The Shearson team goes to work on that car. Here's Gary.
Well, we're watching what appears to be routine service again. And I tell you, Doug Shearson and this team had told us just minutes ago they're right on target with fuel. Everything looks good, and they have not had a blistering problem. And right behind Luyendyk, A.J. Foyt with good service. He's still very much a player today.
Boy, there's some great news for Doug Shearson and the team. They apparently guessed right on the setup. Maybe not guessed. Maybe they did more research than everyone else.
Could be a little bit like what Sam brought up a little while ago. It could be that on this type of a track, the Lolas may not be faster than the Penske's, but they're going to get to the racetrack a little bit better and have less problems, namely with blistering tires.
Also, Luyendyk did more practicing day in and day out here than most of the other teams. I talked to Emerson Fittipaldi about Luyendyk the other day. As a matter of fact, there's Al Jr. in the pits, and Emo's eyes lit up. He said, Ari has been doing it all right.
Look at how dirty his roll bar is, indicating how much wash of oil they're all getting on their cars as they move around this course. A further indication of how difficult it is to read the Indianapolis Motor Speedway
Well,
today.
also a lot of cars are still in this race. We talked about the engineering and technology. A lot of the cars are running well today.
Well, Al Unser Jr. shifts gears and accelerates out onto the course itself. We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500. We're back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's the 5th place car, Rick Mears, circling this track, but he is running a lap behind the leader of the race, and that is Bobby Rahal. 2nd place is Ari Luyendyk. 3rd place is Emerson Fittipaldi. We are running under caution. The caution put out when John Andretti spun down in the south end of the track, and they're clearing that situation right now. John Andretti taking the customary ride to the hospital just to make sure he's okay. Let's go to Jack Arute for an update on Al Unser Jr.
Paul, underneath that blue blanket right there, the tires that came off of Al Unser Jr.'s car, he, like so many others of the front runners, has a blistered right rear tire one more time. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting is they take them off and cover them up as quickly as they possibly can. They don't want us to see them. They don't want the competition to see them. In fact, they don't want to let any part of their hand be shown to anybody else up and down this pit road area. So they cover them up as quick as they take them off.
So the story becomes the tactics that are being played in the pits, now trying to determine how best to set these cars up for the run to the finish.
Paul, keep in mind, as far as the competitors go on what Jack just brought up, that a blister is not always just a blister. It's how bad they blister and how soon they do it tells the other guy how competitive he's going to be against the guy that's blistered.
There's a look at the first 2 cars as we're ready to come back to green. Bobby Rahal will lead the field back. We take a look up to the north turn to see the pace car come off onto the pit road, which is an indication to the rest of the field the green will come out, and indeed there it is. Bobby Rahal acknowledges it, punching the throttle and heading down the main stretch, just flat disappearing from the rest of the field.
He's real good at doing that.
Emerson Fittipaldi strings his way through. He runs in 3rd place right now.
Remember, he's got to catch Rahal, but obviously he must have the car to do it. But he's got to take care of those tires. So we just have to keep following this tire problem as we watch him come up. Paul.
Boy, Fittipaldi is running low, though, way down on the apron as he comes alongside Jim Crawford. Running down the backstretch, gets around Crawford.
Someone with Fittipaldi's road racing background feels comfortable running down that low. That's the way you do it in road racing.
Well, Sam, what happens right now is that he's hunting for dry pavement. He's hunting, like Paul said a little bit earlier, there's a lot of oil out there. And he's hunting for places where there's no oil. And obviously you go down to find that, not up to the high side.
Rick Mears running in 5th place, made up one of his lost laps when Fittipaldi pitted to repair and replace those blistered tires. Al Unser Jr. is now beginning to close down from 4th place on this, the 3rd place running car of Fittipaldi.
Emerson is often late to things, simply not because he's impolite. It's because when he's talking to somebody, he can't stand to walk away from them without having given them the full benefit of the time spent with them. But it's funny, when you try to make an appointment with Emerson, it better be about 2 o'clock, not exactly 2 o'clock, and you'll be lucky if he shows up at 3.
Now, Fittipaldi has been one of the great champions of the 500, though, recognizing the duties and obligations that are assumed by a 500 champion, and that is specifically to the fans, to spend time with them, to sign autographs, to give speeches and make appearances. He's been very good at that this past year.
Let's talk about oily conditions on the track as we watch Emma work his way up. It changes, usually about from, say, a third of the way through 3/4 of the way the track gets the slipperiest that it's going to get. And in the latter part of the race, ironically, the track gets better. We should see the speeds come back up then, very similar to what we saw last year, Paul.
Taking a look at the rookies in the field as we continue to watch Fittipaldi. Eddie Cheever is now running 9th, the fastest rookie qualifier. Scott Goodyear is running in 12th place, the Canadian rookie. Cheever, that 25 car, fastest rookie in this 500 field, coming out of the Formula One.
Cheever had more than 100 starts in Formula One without any victories. And you wonder, as he comes here, will he catch on in this other form of the sport? I personally think he will, but he certainly has been dogged by an awfully long losing streak.
Right behind him is the 4th place competitor. That's Al Unser Jr.
Yes, and little Al, keep in mind now, he's been having a bit of a tire problems too. We saw his tires covered up so the competition wouldn't see it. But the wind has come up just a little bit. And this will change their handling just a little bit also, Paul.
There's Fittipaldi. He rides in 3rd place right now. And as Bobby has suggested, the wind has begun to pick up. Matter of fact, it's coming out of the east here, was not the prevailing direction at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and tends to swirl from time to time. If that becomes any more severe, it will definitely have an effect on the handling of these cars. A wind gust can really move you over, Bobby.
Well, they're just hoping it's going to dry out, and if they are having problems, well, we know they're having problems, some of them. The wind won't have a tendency to make it any better. It'll make it worse for some.
Cheever, who you see going by there, and now R.A. Lyondike. Lyondike said something great to me the other day. He said, Indy is like every other race in the sense that it has a start and a finish. But he conceded that the in-between parts are pretty intense here.
He's running so close to the grass, he's going to be into it pretty soon. That shows you the guys are hunting that dry pavement right now.
R.A. Lyondike, 4 seconds behind the leader. There's his wife, Mika. Has not yet won an IndyCar race. The last time that the first career win in IndyCars was achieved here at the Indianapolis 500 was in 1966, when then as a rookie at the Speedway, Graham Hill won the race. Works his way past Theo Fabi down into the first corner. And we watch now for Emerson Fittipaldi, who is on the pit road and rolling back into the Penske pits again. This will send him even further back after early domination.
He was as close as 6 seconds out of the lead. Not now.
Running 3rd when he turned in for the pits. These seconds tick away. He falls further and further behind. In fact, about 235 feet per second he falls behind for every second that he stops.
And we still don't see any tire or any chassis changes. No changes coming on, but tires. Now what they're doing there is trying to heal the chassis handling up or to stop the blistering by changing the stagger.
And look at that. Fittipaldi now goes a lap down. The man who dominated the early part of the race falls a lap behind the leader, Bobby Rahal. Lyondike continues in second. There is Rahal as Fittipaldi tries to come up to speed. Jack, you have an update? Jackaroo.
Paul, another blistered tire for Emerson Fittipaldi, and the term of the blister, first they started as small pockmarks. This one looked like the Grand Canyon as it came off the car. Kind of interesting, though, as we talked to the leader's crew chief, from the Craco Gallus team, Barry Green. They have only had one blistered tire early on in the race. They made the adjustment, and Bobby Rahal says that the car feels very balanced right now. For somebody that's never driven a race car, what does that feel like? It's like hitting the perfect golf shot, getting the sweet part of the iron and getting it right close to the pin.
And, of course, Bobby Rahal would know exactly what you're talking about, Jack, because he is a golfer.
The Valvoline race summary. Bobby Rahal started in fourth, now in the front of the race. He won here at Indianapolis back in 1986. And at 178 miles an hour, he can break his own track record by nearly 9 miles an hour if he continues running at this pace.
At this point of the race, his chassis setting is often the best between the others. For example, he's in a Lola right there. Bobby Rahal leading the race right now. Versus like Al Jr. He's in the Danico Lola, theoretically set the same, but they're always a little bit different.
I'll tell you, the Lola contingent has to be pleased with performance at the moment as Rahal has to drift to the inside there. They've not won here at Indianapolis since Al Unser in 1978. So Bobby Rahal leads Arie Luyendyk 155 laps of the scheduled 200-lap distance are complete. They'll be back.
When it comes to quenching a thirst, Indy race fans do it big time. Approximately 475,000 gallons of liquid are consumed at the track in the month of May. That's enough to fill a monster cup 40 feet wide and 80 feet high.
Back at the Indianapolis 500, Emerson Fittipaldi is lined up right behind Arie Luyendyk on the course, but Fittipaldi is a full lap down. Arie Luyendyk is running in second place. Fittipaldi needs to overhaul him. Al Unser Jr. was sitting there a moment ago, but then headed into the pits for what Bobby Unser appeared to be routine service with an 18-second stop.
It really wasn't routine, Paul. I just happened to sneak away from monitor and watched it. They were adjusting his rear wing. That means he's still having blistering right rear problems. They put more wing into the rear to try to nail the car down the track so it doesn't slip and the tires won't blister.
Also fighting handling problems, the Fittipaldi team. Here's Jack.
Rick Reineman, you continue to chase the handle. You're blistering tire after tire. What's wrong with the car?
Well, the track is as hot as it's ever been this month, and right now we're adjusting our pressures to try and help the blistering in the tire. The last tire didn't actually blister. We didn't have any problem with the temperature or the pressures. It was a bad tire that had an air pocket in it from what they're telling us.
Now, you have a black book. You've got setups here. You didn't have this kind of hot weather, but why haven't you been able to get a little closer to the setup for this race?
Well, again, the setup that we have on the car was according to the temperatures that we ran all month. The chassis is perfect, and that's what we set the car up for. We've made no chassis changes. It's just the set of tires that we're putting on.
So it's still hunt and search here on pit road, Paul.
And Fittipaldi still runs in third, one lap behind the leader. Second place is Arie Luyendyk out of Pearson Racing. What a great run they're having. Remember, their car finished in third last year, then with Raul Boisel at the helm, so they are fully capable of figuring out how to get to the front and stay there.
Arie has conceded. You see there the relationship between the lead, Bobby Rahal at the bottom of your screen, and right there, Arie Luyendyk, now less than 2 seconds back. And he's gaining on him. This is a crucial part of the race.
But keep in mind, Rahal doesn't want to ruin his tires. He'll probably allow him to get that close.
All right, the battle for first and second. It is Rahal in the lead, but it is Luyendyk closing. Let's just sit back and watch this fight at the Indianapolis 500. second continues to narrow. Lyondike has been as close as 0.6 of a second behind Bobby Rahal. Rick Mears jumped in and out of the pits in 14.3 seconds. We continue to watch this battle, and Lyondike continues to close. To fight their way around this track, a battle for first and second. Both of them very conscious that very shortly they will have to stop for fuel as Rahal moves inside Scott Brayton.
But at least they're in the same sequence on their pit stops, Paul. Everything should be equal. The race should get better. You can watch as the cars come back and gain on each other. It's the traffic. The traffic makes all the difference when you're running speeds like this.
And this is lap 167 of 200, so the next stop would be the last ones unless a yellow were to come out. Scheduled to stop in about 4 laps. You see Ari Lyondike hunting down Bobby Rahal.
Hunts him down, has him alongside for the moment, and goes ahead as Rahal just brushes the brakes. It's Lyondike in the lead of the Indianapolis 500.
You can watch Rahal getting to come right down to the grass or go down the low line, and he looked over there and he says, wow, there's Lyondike. Can't make it.
And listen to the crowd. Ari Lyondike has been a man who has conceded that he has a monkey on his back. There is his wife, Nikki, and because he has been winless for so long, you can imagine what this means. He must now try to fight down those emotions that you feel when you sweep past the former winner of this race and into the lead this close to the end of the race.
Ari Lyondike, 76 career starts, still going for his first win. Will it be here at Indianapolis?
Oh, he took the lead this time really honestly. He passed the leader. No more inheriting it, no more just being there, capable of taking advantage of the situation. He passed Rahal, and he did it nice.
You can see that Lyondike, though, like Rahal and many of the others, as several of the cars begin to head for the pit, is forced to go down very low on the course, giving further evidence of the changing conditions of this 2.5-mile oval at Indianapolis.
Obviously, it's just not drying out. The track is not drying out as much as drivers had hoped. It's slippery. Otherwise, they wouldn't be that far on the bottom.
Bobby Rahal chasing Ari Lyondike now.
Rahal, a student of history at Denison, a B-plus student there, might be remembering right now the race that he won here in 1986 when Kevin Cogan was running away from him at this same point in the race. And a yellow came out very near the end. We hear now that there may be just 2 laps before Lyondike comes in. Rahal saw that lead of Cogan's evaporate at the last minute, and he was able to pass him with just a lap to go.
The last win for Ari Lyondike's team, Team Shearson, was 1986 in the finale at Miami. At that time, Al Unser Jr. was the driver.
Just to show you that the cars are still capable. The last lap, 219 miles an hour.
Watching for a stop by Bobby Rahal. There you see the Craco SDP team waiting for the arrival of their driver, running in second place. The sign marking the point where Bobby will have to cut the car over to the left and move into the pits. Rahal on the pit road right now. The crew waiting. This is a crucial stop. Here is Checkaroo.
Bobby Rahal will bring his car to the orange marks here on pit road. He hits them exactly. They will take on the methanol fuel and change tires. They have elected not to make any chassis adjustments on this final stop. Rahal takes a drink, a wet rag to clean the oil off his visor. They check the inlets to down by the radiators, taking on as much fuel as they've got. He spins the tires, and he is off and away in 18.2 seconds.
In 18.2 seconds, but one of the crew did, in fact, reach over and adjust the left front wing on Rahal's car as Lyondike streams down the main straightaway.
The left front wing, Paul, would be the least adjustment that they could do. In other words, that would be considered a minor one. But nobody has ever seen their car is perfect here, you know.
So Ari Lyondike is in the spotlight at the moment at the Indianapolis 500 as Bobby Rahal makes his stop on the 172nd lap of the race. Bobby, that should carry him to the finish.
Yes, it will, Paul. If we don't have a yellow, like Sam brought up a little while ago, if everything keeps going like it is, we're going to see one good race to the finish.
By the way, John Paul Jr. started 32nd and is now up running in 18th place. On the pit road now, here is the leader of the race, Arie Luyendyk. This will be his last stop as well. Gary Gerould is there waiting.
And Paul, we wait with anticipation there. The nose is in sight. He glides in smoothly, right on target. What a story this man has been. What a story this team has been all during the month of May. Chevrolet Power for the first time. We see blisters on the right rear, Paul, as it comes off. The first blistering for Arie Luyendyk.
Bobby Rahal, there it is. You're looking at Bobby Rahal as he maneuvers around this track, and Arie Luyendyk moves back into the action. And a tremendous roar comes up from this crowd. Rahal at the head of the main straightaway. Luyendyk coming up to speed now. Green flag is out. We're continuing under green flag racing. Will Rahal catch Luyendyk? They run through the first corner. Luyendyk just ahead on the track, but still trying to come up to speed.
Remember, Paul, the blister tire is telling us a story. There's still quite a few miles till the end. There's Luyendyk right there. It could be that he may have problems. Now remember, 219 miles an hour just a few laps ago.
There's Luyendyk. There is Rahal just behind him. So Luyendyk was able to hold on to first place, but he is now being chased down by Bobby Rahal. And Rahal certainly knows how to move up and catch anybody in front of him. This is going to be a whale of an IndyCar race.
Tough customer, that Rahal.
So Arie Luyendyk, after what should be the final stop for both first and second, continues to hold on to the lead of the Indianapolis 500. ABC Sports coverage of the 500 will return after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back live at the Indianapolis 500, where Arie Luyendyk has now completed 178 laps of the 200-lap scheduled distance of the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500. He's wielding an Indycar, 1,550 pounds, about 800 horsepower, and he turned his last lap with that machine at 211.4 miles an hour. On board here with the second place driver, Bobby Rahal, the 1986 winner of the race. Allinger Jr. rides in third, then Fittipaldi, then Rick Mears one lap down. It's turned into quite a car race here in the closing laps, dominated in the early going by Emerson Fittipaldi. We've got more racing for you next week. The OPT Superboats of Miami. You'll see them in action with a star-studded field off the Florida coast. And then at 4 o'clock Eastern, IndyCar excitement will continue in Milwaukee with coverage of the Miller Genuine Draft 200. The battle here at the Indianapolis 500 is Bobby Rahal trying to catch the leader, Arie Luyendyk. Luyendyk, who has never won an IndyCar race.
And remember, Paul, the thing that seems to be the division is the tires. Will they blister or will they not blister? Once the tires blister, they can become unsafe very fast, and they won't get good traction either.
Arie Luyendyk looking for his first win. A.J. Foyt's first win on pavement came here at his first victory at the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Luyendyk pays very close attention to his racing. Seeing an opportunity for victories by coming to the United States from his homeland of the Netherlands. He says his life is very, very focused on racing. It is all he really cares to do.
My life is evolved around racing, and to quite a degree, actually. And that works for me. I know some drivers who don't. I know some drivers who can go home after a race and go sightseeing for a week. Well, that's not me, because I need to, 2 days later after the race, I need to be back in the health club, because that's part of my job, part of my racing. So I'm really 100% focused, really.
Arie Luyendyk, and right behind him is Emerson Fittipaldi trying to unlap himself. There's Mika Luyendyk, his wife.
An ironic touch in 1986 when Rahal won. It was Luyendyk's spin with 6 laps to go that brought out the yellow that allowed Rahal to close up and pass Kogan. Now Luyendyk, who helped Bobby 4 years ago, may be about to deprive him of his second win.
You just watch. There's Luyendyk. There went Fittipaldi by. That's that never-die attitude with Fittipaldi. If he passes Luyendyk, he's back on the same lap. The guy never quits, and there's only about 20 laps left.
I'll tell you what, if Luyendyk is able to carry This car all the way to the finish. You're going to see a celebration, perhaps the likes of which we have never seen before here at Indianapolis. But can he do it? He has a veteran, Bobby Rahal, running just 4 seconds behind him. And Emerson Fittipaldi, though, for the moment, is a lap down, is not yet out of the fight. Turned the lap at 214.4 miles an hour. Still running well over the race record. Racing now at an average of 183.6 miles an hour. And car 30, the Domino's Pizza Hot One, Arie Luyendyk, is in front. We'll be back. Back at the Indianapolis 500 with 13 laps to go. You look down on this great speedway from the Goodyear Blimp America. The captain, Tom Canet of Houston, Texas. 25th time Goodyear Blimp has been over the speedway. By the way, the crew here wants to send out its best wishes to Joe DeBonis, who has worked his magic as the director of our technical operations at ABC for so long. He hasn't been feeling well lately, but we understand he's on his way to recovery. Joe, we wish you well. Arie Luyendyk, 187 laps complete. Bobby Rahal is 6 seconds behind. Al Unser Jr. comes off the course from 3rd place and in for a pit stop, turning his last lap at 197 miles an hour, while the fight continues out on the course itself. And in anticipation of the 500th mile, now just 12 laps away, there is Al Unser Jr. He'll go a lap down with this stop. And fairly effectively, Bobby, out of contention. 18 seconds in the pits.
Paul, it's obviously, the way it looks to us, tire problems again, blistering tires. Not that we mean Goodyear's fault at all. Means that the car's just not set good. The track is not hitting any laps on it, like they're racing today. No practice that way.
What an incredible day for Arie Luyendyk and for his team owner, Doug Shearson of Michigan. He's won 6 times as a car owner. Never here at Indianapolis. 3 times with Danny Sullivan in '84 and 3 with Al Unser Jr. during the years '85 and '86. And now his car is out in front at the Indianapolis 500, and it couldn't happen to a nicer couple of men.
It certainly couldn't. And you know, I thought that the battle was shaping up between what is in effect the 2 super teams, the 2-car team of Rick Gals, the 3-car team of Roger Penske, but the single-car team of Doug Shearson, with all the energy focused on this one car of Arie Luyendyk, is starting to look awfully good here.
Look how low he ran right there in turn 4. Not only down to the yellow line stand, but completely half the car underneath it. Now, Arie obviously has a little bit of tire problem too. He's really hunting that dry pavement.
I'll tell you what, he needs, I would say, to be just a little more careful, because he's cutting it pretty close. And he does have about a 10-second lead over Bobby Rahal. Gary Gerould is now down in Arie Luyendyk's pit.
Paul, we were just conversing with Neil Micklewright, the general manager for Shearson Racing. They're running 217 miles per hour. He says they've been playing it a little conservative. They expect more pressure in the final 15 laps of this race, but they think that they've got it, or 10 laps, I'm sorry, to go in this race. They think that they've got the capability to handle that pressure. And you can feel the excitement building in this pit for a man who's never won an Indycar race. It's a great moment, Paul.
There should be some tension there, Gary Gerould, because 12 times in the 74 runnings of the Indianapolis 500, the lead has changed in the final 10 laps of the race, including 1983, 1986, and of course the race last year between Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. that we'll never forget. Let's go down to the pits once again. Here's Jackaroo.
All the enthusiasm that we told you about in the Craco pit before Bobby Rahal, well, it's gotten very quiet down here. They watch the car, they strain over the wall each and every lap to see it come hurtling out of turn number 4 and come down the front stretch at over 220 miles an hour. They're not sure whether they can catch Arie Luyendyk, and second just won't be good enough for them today.
Some of the tension at least is off for those pit crews with 8 laps to go in the 500, because for the most part their job is done. They have given the car all the service they can possibly give. And now it is up to their driver, in this case Arie Luyendyk, leading turn the last lap, 217.8. He is flying.
We talked about the ingredients that it takes to win this race. Right now, Bobby Rahal is in a position where what he needs is luck. He can't take it on his own.
Track record is 170.7 miles an hour. That's set in '86 by Rahal. But right now they're averaging 185 miles an hour. They, of course, means Ari Leyendijk and Team Shearson.
The limit today, Paul, has been the tires. The game plans from all the teams varied tremendously early on in the race. But right now it's down to 2 guys. They're racing very hard. It would look like now Ari Leyendijk has an edge.
And last time that a man won here, there's Doug Shearson, the car owner. The last time that a man won his very first camp race here was Graham Hill, who won as a rookie in 1966.
Doug Shearson, who we just looked at, has been directing the strategy. He is a very, very bright businessman. He's a very bright man. And this is obviously a tremendous moment for Shearson because ideas that he has been working on in terms of strategy for several years are now paying off. You see Ari's wife, Miki, they love to collect art, furniture. Their last house near Milwaukee was furnished entirely in white furniture. I don't know whether $1 million victory here means $1 million worth of white furniture will now be sent out to their new house in California. There she is.
Leyendijk stretches his lead 13 seconds ahead of the second place Bobby Rahal. 1 lap down is Fittipaldi, who from time to time you can see running. Here you might catch a glimpse of him now on the main straightaway. In 4th place is Al Unser Jr. Rick Mears is in 5th. A.J. Foyt continues to hold on to 6th. Scott Brayton is up to 7th now. Eddie Cheever is in 8th place. 5 laps to go. Rounding out the top 10, 9th place is Kevin Cogan. And 10th place is the 28 car of Canadian rookie Scott Goodyear. Of the Indianapolis 500.
Leyendijk and Shearson, 2 men whose fortunes in racing have been somewhat held in check because they did not have one thing that they needed, a Chevrolet engine. That is what is making the difference for this team. They finally got the Chevrolet engine, and look at the difference that it's making.
Kind of shows you that the rich and powerful don't always win. This is just a single car team versus the big multi-car team.
Wayne Sweeney gives the white flag, signaling 1 more lap to Ari Leyendijk. And Emerson Fittipaldi comes past there, but it doesn't matter to Ari because Ari is a good 12 seconds out in front of the second place Bobby Rahal.
Ari Leyendijk, 36 years old, half a lap now from having that monkey of winless streaks off of his back.
What a race to win.
An incredible win it will be, and at an incredible pace. 185.8 miles an hour, his average on the last lap. There's the main straightaway line ahead, and his destiny, Ari Leyendijk, comes for the checkered flag and picks up the win as Ari Leyendijk wins the 74th running of the Indianapolis 500, his very first Indycar victory. on the earth. His car has won the Indianapolis 500. His happiness perhaps rivaled only by this man's, Arie Luyendyk. First win for Lola was back in 1966 with Graham Hill, but they've had a tough time showing up at the top of the column at Indy. So Arie Luyendyk has scored his first victory, and it's the most important victory you can score, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. In just a few moments, we'll join Arie Luyendyk in victory lane at the Indianapolis 500.
The crowd singing and cheering, Arie, Arie. The Dutchman takes the customary swig of milk. Doug Shearson giving him the congratulations. Arie Luyendyk, welcome to the Indianapolis 500 victory lane.
I think it's a dream. I don't know what's happening. It's unbelievable.
It all happened so quick. You qualified on the outside of that front row. You did so very well. And then all during the practice, you kept saying to us, watch us in the race. And the race came to you today.
They certainly did. I just hung in there at the beginning. We had some push, and the guys did a great job. They cured the handling, and at the end of the race, when it counted, the car was just beautiful. And I have to thank all the guys of my team, Doug Shearson.
Hey, most people come into victory lane and they're soaking wet and perspired. Your hair's just a little wet, but you don't even seem like this was much of a 500-mile contest for you.
No, this is the hard work right here. I mean, this is I can't believe this is happening. I'd like to say hi to my parents out there. They're watching in Holland. I'm sure they're proud. And my wife's parents, Mika.
Hey, average speed, a new record, 185 miles an hour. Your name goes in the record book as the fastest 500-mile race winner ever.
Well, I don't care if we were doing 60 miles an hour average. We still got first place, and that was count. This is unbelievable.
When you came down and took the checkered flag, what was it? Was it an emotional moment? Was it a moment that you thought about, or was it just business as usual?
I was trying to keep myself together. We had 25 laps to go, and I said, just treat this like anything else out there. Don't let it get to your head. And I was real calm, and there wasn't any problem. And I actually thought I had one more to go, so when I saw the checkered, I just kind of went nuts in my helmet.
Well, Doug Shearson, you have waited to come to victory lane for a long time. Drivers like Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., they've been at the wheel, and now Arie Luyendyk has done it for you.
We've been close before, but I think I've told you all month we came here to win this race, and we were prepared from the first day we went on the track. I'm really proud of the whole team. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. It's really nice is waking up tomorrow morning with no excuses. I'd just like to say hello to my mom and all the people back in Adrian, Michigan. We did it.
For the first time since Graham Hill came here as a rookie and came home victorious, Mika, your husband is a 500-mile champion. How does it feel to you?
It feels fantastic to me. Same as it feels to him, I guess.
Any long-distance phone calls back to Holland tonight?
Oh, yes, for sure. Yes.
Back up a little bit. Oh, yep.
It is sheer pandemonium here, Paul Page, and rightfully so. First-time winner in the Indianapolis 500, and his name will go on that Ford Warner trophy. Let's go back to you.
And he shattered Bobby Rahal's track record by 15 miles an hour. There's still great racing action coming up later today on ABC Sports, the International Race of Champions. And then we'll take you across the sea to Monte Carlo. But we'll be back with more from Indianapolis. We're back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the ceremonies continue in victory lane, a very emotional victory lane, a very, very happy man. And look at this. This was the moment of victory. Look at Doug Shearson. He's done it. He's done it. He's done it. Oh, is that wonderful. This is a wonderful group of guys, too. It's really great to see them win here. So Arie Luyendyk at a record pace of 185.9 miles an hour scores his first IndyCar win and does it at the Indy 500. Second place, Bobby Rahal. At this moment, he's with Gary Gerald.
A man who, of course, has experienced all that jubilation, the elation of victory. Today, you have to be content with second place. Is that difficult to accept, Bobby Rahal?
Well, I'm not very content, but I'll accept it. I have no choice, really. The car ran beautifully the whole time. The last stop, we changed tires in the balance. I lost the balance. It really started to push on me, and I just couldn't run aggressively in traffic or in the corners, and that was the difference. But the car ran absolutely flawlessly in the middle part of the race. The thing was hauling, and, just disappointed. But the STP Craco car did a super job today, and the crew did a great job. I mean, I'm happy.
Were you at all surprised that so many teams had problems chasing the balance and were blistering tires in the process?
Well, I didn't know we had blistered tires. I didn't know that they were having a problem until Barry told me Fittipaldi did. And then I came up behind Al one time and I could really see he had a blister going, a line of them going down the right rear. And I radioed in. I said, tell Al he's got blisters because, you know, you don't want it to pop on him. And then when Barry told me if Fittipaldi had to stop again, we had to leave there for a while. And I was feeling pretty good, and then we got those tires on, we just lost the edge to it, and which is unfortunate.
Are you surprised at all that your race record speed average was broken by like 15 miles an hour today?
Well, there weren't many yellows that I could tell. It seemed to go pretty quickly.
Thank you, Bobby. Bobby Rahal, your second place finisher. A little disappointed, Paul, but accepting it with the usual smile.
4 total yellows during the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back to talk with Emerson Fittipaldi and have a rare chance to talk with some of the other competitors after the running of the 500 miles. We'll even take a look back to last year's running of the 500 in an afternoon that is just filled with race coverage today here on ABC Sports. So a great deal coming up this afternoon, the International Race of Champions and then the Formula One, but for the time being, we can still remain here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and speak with several of the competitors in this running of the 500. At the end of the race, this is videotape, Teresa Fittipaldi. As she watched her husband 1 year ago, she watched him go to the checkered flag. This time he finishes in 3rd place. Let's talk with him now. Here's Jerry.
Well, Paul, last year's winner had a great show going early on. Emerson, the car seemed to perform so well early in the race, then it went away. What happened?
Well, Jerry, the car was beautiful. The Marlboro team made a great work. Everything was really looking good. Every pit stop was quick, except we had this tire problem twice. I had to come in on green, and I lost 2 laps with the tires, but the car was beautiful, just fantastic.
Do you have any idea what may have caused the blistering problem in the car?
No, I think I have to ask Goodyear.
Were you concerned at all after seeing Danny Sullivan? Now he gets a handshake here from Bobby Rahal, another competitor. Were you concerned after you saw Danny Sullivan's car spin? Were you concerned that there may be something breaking on the car and maybe your car would have a problem?
No. I mean, my car was beautiful, just so quick the whole race. I had no problem whatsoever. I was not worried. I mean, just we were having a very smooth race, and it's a shame.
You would have thought Emerson Fittipaldi won it when he climbed out of the car here, Paul Page. They were standing, giving him an ovation here. He is very popular in Indianapolis.
Well, while he is no longer the defending champion, he continues to be a most gracious man. A summary from Valvoline of the race. Arie Luyendyk, of course, scores his first win at a record pace, 185.9 miles an hour. Brand new record. We'll be back with more from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So much of the crowd of nearly 500,000 still here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway watching the finishing ceremonies. Last Thursday was the pit stop contest with big money on the line for these crews. Gary Gerald reports.
The first semifinal pairing in this year's 14th annual Miller Pit Stop competition matched the principles of last year's dramatic 500-mile race, Emerson Fittipaldi against Al Unser Jr. The object, change 4 tires and simulate a fuel hookup faster than your opponent. Led by crew chief Owen Snyder, Unser's 6-man unit came scrambling over the wall and executed their appointed duties in a fraction over 15 seconds. Fittipaldi's Penske team ran into problems with a reluctant right rear wheel, and the defending champion of the 500-mile race was eliminated. The other semifinal paired Michael Andretti against Bobby Rahal. With official time starting at the moment of entry into the specially designed pits, Rahal entered first and got quick, smooth service from his team, led by crew chief Jim Prescott. Andretti's crew battled furiously to match the pace, but the 6-man unit finished 3.5 seconds slower. Coming down off the jack, Rahal lit up his tires and stopped the clocks in just over 14 seconds. Rahal's triumph set the stage for an all-Gallus-Craco final, the first time for cars from the same team to meet in the finals since 1978, when cars owned by Sherman Armstrong battled for top money. With the largest crowd ever to watch the competition poised for the showdown between teammates, Unser and Rahal left the starting line and wheeled into the pits in tandem. Unser's crew turned in a flawless effort and got Little Al out in 14 seconds, the fastest stop of the competition. But for Rahal, a cross-threaded rear wheel left him stranded, and the victory belonged to Unser. For Unser's jubilant crew, there was double satisfaction since they had successfully defended the championship they won last year against Mario Andretti. The victory was worth $25,000 and a fresh boost of confidence in preparation for today's race. Al Unser Jr. and the Gallus Craco team, repeat champions of the Miller Pit Stop competition.
And a race in which the pit stop really figured into the outcome. Ari Leyendyk and Doug Pearson circled the track, receiving the congratulations of this giant crowd here. Ari Leyendyk winning his first IndyCar race at the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back to talk with Al Unser Jr. Giant crowd pouring out of the back of the grandstands along the main straightaway here. Don't forget, the International Race of Champions will be coming up in just a few minutes, but there's still much more to do here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This gives us a nice opportunity to talk with a number of the competitors in the race itself. Al Unser Jr., of course, last year was so very, very close to an Indianapolis 500 win, leading with just 2 laps to go, and then suddenly smacked into Emerson Fittipaldi. Well, this year he comes home in 4th place. He's with Jack Arute.
But Paul, like so many other drivers today, he fought an ill-handling race car all afternoon. And Al, you had such a great, actually an explanation of what it felt like when a tire began to blister out there. No warning at all, huh?
No, there wasn't. It was just the car was handling perfect. You know, my guys, they did a super job, and we just overheated the tire, and then it started blistering, and then is when the ill handling came into the car. But you know, it was a good race, and we're a lot happier this year than we were last year. And I'd also like to say hi to my sister Mary Linda and the kids back home. We made a safe one, and we're happy. So
one of the things we talked about, though, after you made your way back to the garage area here, was the fact that it wasn't the chassis that the problem lied in. It was actually in choosing the proper air pressure for the tires because of the hot track.
Yeah, that's what Alan Mertens, he told me that they lowered the air pressure there at the end of the race, and it helped it, and so it cured the blistering, and so we learned. It was an expensive lesson, but we learned. But I'm happy. I'm real happy about Bobby Rahal finishing 2nd. That's my teammate. You know, we finished 2 and 4th, and the Gallus Craco team's here to stay. So thanks.
The next momentum, though, will be for the championship, and they still have a shot at that, Paul.
Well, they have more than a shot. He currently leads the points in the PPG Championship, looking to determine the IndyCar World Champion at the end of the season. ABC Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations. I'm Paul Page, back at the Indianapolis 500, where Ari Leyendyk has just won his first IndyCar race. There were 2 accidents during this race. The first came as Danny Sullivan was starting his 20th lap. He lost control on the first turn and slammed the wall. The car threw pieces all over the place, and Danny finally rolled to a stop up against the wall. He complained of some dizziness. Now, when we were able to look at it with this angle, look at the right rear of the car. Suddenly, a little puff of smoke, something lets go, and it sends him into a spin. He was running in 8th place at the time. He caught the wall, what could have been a more serious angle. Right now, let's talk with Danny Sullivan.
Well, Paul, he has been released from Methodist Hospital after getting a brain scan down there. And Danny, the good news is you seem to be okay.
Well, that's right. I feel okay. I got a bit of a headache, which you can imagine, taking the wheel right in the front of the head, but everything's okay. They gave me a clean bill of health.
Do you have any idea what happened to the car?
Well, it looks like a wheel bearing exploded in the right rear, and of course that's what you probably saw on TV. It was just coming apart and disintegrating, and lost control of the car. Luckily, I had anticipated a little bit because we started getting a vibration, but I wasn't quite quick enough, and I'd slowed down going into turn 1 and kind of gone down low. But it wasn't enough.
Apparently, Nye and Roger Penske were concerned about your teammates as a result of that wheel bearing problem. Is that what caused me BMO to slow down eventually?
Well, I haven't gotten a report from them, but obviously they're concerned. But as Nigel Bennett said, that problem we had probably was in the car when we rolled it out on the grid, that there was something else that caused that to go wrong. So after probably 30 or 40 laps, the other guys, if they didn't have the problem with them, they weren't going to have it all day.
To show you he did not lose his sense of humor, even in adversity. When they took him into the hospital and asked him to read the eye chart, he read the maker of the eye chart at the very bottom of the chart. What did the doctor say to you?
Show off.
Danny Sullivan back to the
I would have said the same thing. Danny Sullivan finished unofficially in 32nd place at the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back in just a moment, and then we'll talk with Rick Mears, the 5th place finisher.
Back in Gasoline Alley, Gary Gerould, along with the 5th place finisher of this event, a 3-time winner, Rick Mears. No victory jubilation today. Instead, it was just a lot of frustration because you knew you had a problem early in this afternoon.
Right off the bat, the first lap or so, the car was pretty decent and started going loose real quick. And again, I haven't been fighting looseness all month long, and all of a sudden today on race day, the car gets so loose you can't really drive it, and we just had to start making changes and chasing it, and we made some big changes. The first stop, and it helped it, and it was good for about 2 laps, and then went loose again. Next stop, made some big changes again, and then it felt pretty decent. I could lean on it, and it was good for about 10 laps, and then blistered the right rear. It was still to the loose side.
Isn't it unusual for these kind of conditions to happen where so many teams, particularly the high-dollar teams, the Penske team, for goodness sakes, with all of the talent, to be chasing problems like that?
Well, it is unusual. I mean, it's just, but that's what I've always said. These cars are getting so sensitive today. It takes very little to put them off quite a long ways. And the cars have been very good all month long. And in today's condition, for some reason, it's the first time I've had looseness like that.
So now you get ready for Milwaukee this next week, a whole different oval configuration where you're just running around, whip, whip, whip.
Well, it's going to be a good one. I think, just like Phoenix, there was a lot of cars running very strong there. It should be a good race, just as here, in Milwaukee. So we're already looking at what we're going to do there.
And we look forward to seeing you, and we'll have it, of course, on ABC next weekend.
Well, thank you very much.
A little disappointed, still smiling, Paul.
Rick Mears, 3-time winner, could have had Ford today. There's the yard of bricks, and that is where the start-finish line is painted that sent Arie Luyendyk into the history books here today. Let's go back to the 168th lap of this race because he earned his position. He's chasing Bobby Rahal here and makes a move, lines up behind Rahal, and then just comes right inside him, continues with a courageous pass, forces his way into the lead, and from then on, the Indianapolis 500-mile race belonged to Arie Luyendyk. His first IndyCar victory, and it comes here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll take a look at the standings. Now, they're unofficial at this point. They are not official until they are posted by the United States Auto Club at 8:30 tomorrow morning. We'll be back with more from the Indianapolis 500. Well, here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, our race is run, but still coming up, the International Race of Champions, which, by the way, is one terrific race, and the Grand Prix of Monaco. Same-day coverage live by satellite. Let's take a look at the rundown through the field here at the Indianapolis 500 with Arie Luyendyk, the winner. Rahal, Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr., and Rick Mears rounds out the top 5. Then Foyt, Brayton, Eddie Cheever, the highest finishing rookie. Then Kevin Kogan. Then Scott Goodyear, also a rookie, in 10th place. 11th, Didier Taze. Then Terrell Pomeroy. Al Unser stayed in there all day. Randy Lewis with a good finish. Jim Crawford. John Paul Jr., Dean Hall, Teo Fabi, Jeff Brabham, Michael Andretti. John Andretti right behind Michael, then Dominic Dawson, Roberto Guerrero, Billy Vukovich III, Rocky Moran, who started in 33rd place. Tony Bentonhausen struggled with his car all day. Mario Andretti went out so early on, much too early. Raul Boesel, Pancho Carter, Tom Sneva in 30th. And the final 3, Gary Bentonhausen, Danny Sullivan with his crash, and Stan Fox finishes in 33rd place. The winner, of course, the man from Holland, now residing in the United States, Arie Luyendyk. Emerson Fittipaldi's likeness on the Borg Warner Trophy last year. Arie Luyendyk will now go on this world-famous trophy. The highest finishing rookie, well, that's Eddie Cheever from the Formula One. Let's talk with him now.
And Paul, you alluded to our coverage of the Monaco Grand Prix coming up later today. Eddie Cheever was there 1 year ago and finished in 7th position. Not as good a finish position here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but a very strong run for the fastest field of 33.
Yes, we were pleased. Our car ran well. All of Chip Ganassi's boys did a good job today. Unfortunately, we're running with an 89 car. I mean, really, it's a ball and chain around here because we're at a big disadvantage. But we finished first of the 89 cars, and that Chevy I had in the back did a lot to drag us up to where we were at. I'm pleased my first Indy's over. We had a bit of a problem with tires. We should have tested the tires earlier, but we didn't.
Over 400,000 people here. What's the sensation? This is the first time you've ever been able to hurtle down the front straightaway with every seat in the house filled. Compare it to maybe some of your other racing.
It's a big place, and 400,000 people are a lot of people, but believe me, 80,000 people around a place like Monaco is pretty tight too. This place is not easy, and you're very focused on what you're doing. And I would probably say the track is easier with a lot of people in there because it buffets the wind. There's not so much wind. And a car going 220 miles an hour gets moved violently by wind. And today was just, I had a lot to do. I really wasn't worried about the people out there, although it's good to perform in such an important event.
Maybe duck back to the hotel and catch that F1 race later today on ABC?
No, I'm going to duck back home and play with my daughter and to get a little bit of sanity in my life here. This has been one very quick race, and I just want to kick up and watch the TV for a while.
And one very long month of May, but he survived it and could very well be the Rookie of the Year. Paul?
We take a look at the final race summary in the Valvoline timing system. The winner, of course, everyone around the world knows now that Arie Luyendyk has won the Indianapolis 500, his very first victory. Started in third place. 7 lead changes during the race, very few caution periods, only 4, and he ran at a record pace of 185.9 miles an hour. We'll be back with more right after this.
We believe if you start something, you better know how to finish it. Chevy salutes Arie Luyendyk, winner of the 1990 Indy 500. Nobody's winning like the heartbeat of America.
The heartbeat of America.
At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the main straightaway empty. It will remain so until next May. This is the only race of the year. Michael Andretti on lap 93 came in, and when they took off that right rear, flames poured off of the brake drum. It appeared that there was a serious problem there, but they stuck with it. 15-minute stop. They had the car back into the action. Now Michael Andretti is with Jerry Punch.
That was originally a concern that maybe the brakes had locked up on the car, but that wasn't the case, Michael Andretti. What happened?
No, we had a problem with the right rear wheel bearing that for some reason seized up. So, it was a real shame. The K-More Haviland car was running very strong. We had just taken a lead at that point with the pit stop, and I was feeling really good about it. I think we were the only car that didn't have a problem with blistering the right rear tire, and I think that could have been the key.
Any idea that's the same thing that happened to Danny Sullivan, and he was was less fortunate than you and Pancho Carter?
Well, I was very lucky because when I entered turn 1, it almost spun around on me, but I was very fortunate to be able to keep it, straight. And why the other guys had the problem, I don't know. Pancho, we could say, well, it's the same car. Maybe there is something to it, but with Danny, it's a totally different car, so you can't really compare it.
They will put the engineers to work here in the garage area tonight, trying to decipher what the problem is with that right rear wheel bearing. Paul?
All right, Michael Andretti with a very troublesome Indianapolis 500. The good news for the day goes to Arie Luyendyk and his car owner, Doug Shearson. The Blimp America floats lazily now in a hazy afternoon Indiana sky. The race is run at a record pace, 185.9 miles an hour, and a most incredible finish earned as Arie Luyendyk passed Bobby Rahal on the track, picked up the lead, and picked up the win. It has been a most unpredictable month of May, and it brought us to a most unpredictable Indianapolis 500.
It was really an upset, basically. Someone from outside of the establishment won this race.
Yep, that was great. That's what I like.
So Arie Luyendyk, a very happy man in victory lane, picks up the victory.
Paul, this has been what I would call is a very fast but exciting race. The fastest race we'll ever see for a long time.
Which is exactly, Bobby Unser, as you predicted. While it's a team effort to win the Indianapolis 500, it's also a team effort for the coverage. We'd like to recognize and thank the many people that it takes to win the Indianapolis 500 as a television coverage. Thanks so much for being with us here in Indianapolis. We'll see you next week, live from Milwaukee, and racing continues throughout the afternoon.